Embrace small beginnings. Have you ever stared at a mountain and felt too small to climb it? The peak seems impossibly high, the path too steep, and the journey too long. Yet every mountain is climbed one step at a time. Imagine standing at the base, unsure where to put your foot next. Then you take one small step forward, just one. In that moment, everything changes. The mountain doesn't look quite so tall. The air feels fresher. Your heart feels a touch braver. That single step is the start of something much bigger. We live in a world that often celebrates giant leaps, overnight success, instant breakthroughs, meteoric rises. But real change rarely happens in one giant bound. It happens in tiny moments. It's the decision to open a book for 5 minutes before bed. It's the choice to write one sentence when you feel stuck. It's the breath you take before answering a hard question in an exam. These small actions may seem insignificant, but they carry hidden power. Each one is a seed. Water it, and it will grow. Think of learning to drive. The first time you sat behind the wheel, your hands shook on the steering wheel, and the pedals felt like strangers under your feet. You probably only moved the car a few feet at first, yet those few feet were a beginning. Over time, you drove around the block, then down the street, then on highways. Each small drive built your confidence. Each tiny success whispered, "You can do this." And eventually, you found yourself driving freely, without fear. The same is true for writing an exam. You might feel overwhelmed by the number of questions or the weight of expectations. But you start with the first question, writing a few lines. Then you move to the next one. You don't think about the whole paper. You focus on one answer at a time. When you finish, you look back and realize you climbed that mountain one question at a time. Each answer was a step. Each small win, finishing a question, checking your work, gave you the courage to move on. In relationships, small beginnings matter too. A friendship often starts with a simple hello, a moment of shared laughter, a text message asking, "How are you?" You don't begin with deep conversations or big declarations. You begin with small moments of connection. A coffee shared, a walk in the park, a message that says, "I'm thinking of you." Those moments build trust. They build warmth. Over time, they become the foundation of something meaningful. There's a quiet paradox here. We often believe that big results require big actions, yet small actions repeated consistently create the biggest changes. Dropping a single drop of water on a rock doesn't seem like much, but drop by drop, the rock will wear away. The constant drip shapes the hard stone. In the same way, small steps shape our lives. Each choice, each tiny move, chips away at our fears and builds our strengths. This idea touches deeper themes of belief and language. The words we use with ourselves matter. If you say, "I'll never learn this," you build a wall. But if you say, "I'll try one small step," you open a door. That shift in language, one small word, can reshape how you feel. It's the difference between "I can't" and "I can try." In mental health, therapists often encourage tiny goals. Get out of bed, wash your face, take a short walk. These small goals seem too small to matter, yet each one is a victory. Each one says, "I matter, I can." Over time, these little wins build resilience. Even in the world of artificial intelligence, small beginnings are key. A complex AI model starts as simple code, lines written one by one. Developers test each function, each algorithm. They don't build a superintelligence in one go. They start small, test, learn, and improve. Each small iteration leads to breakthroughs. Each tiny improvement accumulates into powerful change. The same principle holds for our lives. So how do we embrace small beginnings? First, notice the smallest step you can take toward your goal. Writing one word, sketching one line, sending one message. Make that step. Celebrate it. Say to yourself, "I did it." Then take the next step. Breath by breath, step by step, you move forward. You begin to trust the process. You learn that progress doesn't have to be loud to be real. Here's a simple exercise. Choose something you'd like to start. A project, a habit, a change. Break it down until the first step is almost ridiculously small. If you want to read more, your step might be opening the book. If you want to exercise, your step might be putting on your shoes. If you want to meditate, your step might be sitting down for one breath. Do that step right now. Feel the quiet power of a small beginning. I'd love to hear about your tiny steps. What small action did you take today that moved you closer to a goal? Share your experience in the comments. Let us know where you are in the world and what small win you celebrated. Your story can inspire someone else to take their first step. Remember, every mountain is climbed one step at a time, every ocean is crossed one wave at a time, and every dream is built one small beginning at a time. Embrace your small beginnings. Celebrate your tiny wins, because these quiet steps are the true engines of lasting change and the gentle rhythm of progress in your life. Question every assumption. Have you ever walked into a room and just known where everything was, only to find it moved? That brief jolt of surprise makes you pause and really look. In that moment, you realize how much you relied on your memory instead of your eyes. What if life is full of hidden shifts like that? Things we know without ever checking. True growth begins when we stop on autopilot and ask, why do I believe this? We all carry assumptions, simple beliefs about how the world works. Maybe you assume morning coffee will wake you up, or that friends will always understand an unsent text, or that traffic will be heavy at rush hour. Usually, these assumptions serve us. They help us move through the day without overthinking every detail. But sometimes they blind us to new possibilities. Imagine a student who always assumes math is hard. Before the first question, they feel anxious. Their mind says, I can't do this. Because of that assumption, they might miss patterns that would make the problems easier. But if they pause and ask, why do I believe math is hard? They may discover it's not the subject itself, but a memory of a single bad grade. With that insight, they can let go of the fear and approach the next problem with fresh eyes. In friendships, we often assume people think the same way we do. You might share an idea and expect a certain reaction. When the response is different, you feel confused or hurt. But what if you asked, why do I expect them to react like me? That question opens space for real connection. You begin to see the other person's view, not just your own. You learn that your map of their mind is only a guess, and that asking questions builds trust. Weather patterns offer another simple example. We might assume a gray sky means rain. Most times it does. Yet sometimes the clouds drift away and the sun appears. If we stopped assuming and first checked the air or the wind, we might plan a better picnic. In life, assumptions about people or situations are like dark clouds. They shape our plans. But by questioning them, we bring our own inner sun. This habit of questioning runs deep into bigger themes. In belief, we inherit ideas about right and wrong, about what success means, without always examining them. When we ask, why do I believe this is right? We step into real freedom. We choose values that resonate with who we are, not just who we were taught to be. In language, words carry hidden assumptions. Saying always or never feels certain. But life rarely fits those extremes. When we question those absolutes, why do I say always? We discover more, flexible, kinder ways to speak. Our conversations become less about proving a point and more about sharing understanding. Even in mental health, questioning assumptions can shift our inner world. We might assume our feelings define us. I'm anxious, therefore I am weak. But if we pause and ask, why do I equate anxiety with weakness? We see anxiety as a signal, not a sentence. That small question creates space for self-compassion. We learn that feelings come and go. They don't have to define our worth. In the realm of AI, engineers question assumptions constantly. They test models to see where they fail. They ask, why did the algorithm make that choice? By challenging their own beliefs about how the code should work, they uncover biases and improve accuracy. Questioning assumptions drives innovation, whether in machines or in our minds. So how do you begin? Start with one small belief you hold today. Maybe it's about your morning routine, a relationship, or a goal. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, why do I believe this is true? Notice how your body reacts. You might feel curiosity, relief, or even discomfort. All responses are fine. They point you to where growth can happen. Try this simple exercise. Write down one assumption, anything. Then write because and finish the sentence. Keep asking why for that answer, again and again, until you reach a deeper insight. You might find a memory, a fear, or a hope you didn't know was guiding you. That discovery is the first real step toward change. I'd love to hear about your experience. What assumption did you question today, and what did you learn? Share in the comments where you are and what surprise you uncovered. Your insight might spark someone else's breakthrough. Every moment holds a quiet choice. Follow the old script or pause and ask why. In that simple question lies the door to new understanding, fresh perspective, and meaningful growth. Choose your story. Have you ever looked back on something painful and realized the story you tell about it changed? Maybe it used to feel like failure, but now it feels like a turning point. That shift didn't come from what happened. It came from how you decided to see it. Every day we are surrounded by facts, moments, words, and choices, but it's the meaning we give those things that shape our life. You are not just living your life, you are also telling the story of it, and that story is something you get to choose. Imagine missing the last bus home on a rainy night. One version of the story is, "I'm so unlucky. This always happens to me." But another version is, "Maybe this delay is giving me time to slow down and think. Maybe this quiet walk is what I needed tonight." Same event. Two completely different feelings. One makes you feel stuck. The other gives you a little room to breathe. The facts didn't change, only the meaning did. And meaning is powerful. We often think we react to events, but we're really reacting to the meaning we've attached to them. For example, if someone doesn't say hello, we might assume they're ignoring us. That thought can lead to anger or sadness. But if we pause and wonder, what if they didn't see me? Or, what if they're having a hard day? Suddenly, the emotion softens. We feel less attacked, more understanding. The story changed, so the reaction did too. You do this every day. You already tell yourself stories about who you are, what you're worth, what other people think. And those stories can lift you up or hold you down. Think about it. Two people can go through the same setback. One says, "This proves I'm not good enough." The other says, "This shows I have room to grow." The second person is not ignoring the problem. They are just choosing a story that moves them forward. Take exams, for example. You study hard, but the result isn't what you hoped for. You can say, "I failed, I'm not smart." Or you can say, "I learned how to prepare better next time." Both stories come from the same grade. But only one helps you grow. Only one gives you energy instead of taking it away. That's the quiet power of narrative. How you explain things to yourself shapes what you do next. Even in moments of confusion, your story matters. Let's say you lose a job or an opportunity. That can feel like the end. But what if the story becomes, "This is the start of a new chapter"? Not in a forced or fake way, but in a calm, curious one. What can I learn? Here, what could this open up for me? These questions are gentle. They don't erase the challenge, but they leave the door open for something new. Sometimes we don't realize we're holding on to an old story that no longer fits. Maybe as a child you felt invisible and now you tell yourself you don't matter. But what if that story isn't true anymore? What if the people in your life now do see you, but your old narrative is blocking the connection? To move forward, we have to ask, is this story still helping me? If not, we can choose a different one, gently, one thought at a time. In relationships, this plays out often. A friend forgets to reply. You could tell yourself they don't care. That story hurts. Or you could say, they must be busy, just like I sometimes am. That story gives peace, and peace lets you show up with more patience, not less. Again, the facts stay the same. It's the story that changes the way you feel. In bigger themes like belief, this idea has power too. You might carry the story, I have to do everything right to be loved. That belief can create stress and fear. But if you shift it to, I'm learning every day and that's enough, your heart relaxes. You don't need permission to change the story. You only need awareness. The moment you notice the old narrative, you are free to rewrite it. Language is part of this too. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself. Words like always or never build strong walls in your story. I always mess up. I never get it right. These words sound final. But few things in life are truly final. What if you soften it? Sometimes I struggle, but I'm improving. That small change makes a big difference. It creates space for growth. Even in mental health, the stories we tell ourselves can lift or limit us. A person feeling anxious might say, this means I'm broken. That story is heavy. But what if the story becomes, my body is trying to protect me? I can learn to listen without fear. That small shift can bring hope. The anxiety might still be there, but now there's room for compassion too. This principle applies to AI and machines as well. Developers constantly interpret results, outcomes, errors. They ask, why did the system respond this way? The answer isn't just in the data, it's in the story they tell about it. When the story is thoughtful, the improvements are real. The same is true for us. When our story becomes more honest, more open, more kind, our next steps are stronger. So how do you begin to choose your story? Start small. Notice your thoughts the next time something unexpected happens. Before you react, ask yourself, what story am I telling right now? Is this the only story? Is this the story that helps me grow? You don't need to force anything. Just notice. Then gently try a new lens. Maybe you miss a deadline. Instead of, I'm lazy, try, I misjudged the time. I can plan better. Or maybe someone disagrees with you. Instead of, they don't respect me, try, they see things differently. Maybe I can learn from that. These are small shifts, but they create big ripples. Over time, the way you feel about yourself and about life can change in quiet, lasting ways. I'd love to hear from you. What story are you choosing today? Has there been a moment where you changed your narrative and found new strength? Share in the comments where you're from and what that shift meant to you. Your experience may help someone else find their own new path. Life doesn't give us one fixed meaning. It gives us a canvas, and we fill it in with the story we choose to tell. Some stories bring weight, others bring light. And the beautiful thing is, you get to choose, not all at once, but one thought, one moment, one meaning at a time. Pause before reacting. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you later wished you could take back? Maybe it was just one word, one sentence, spoken too quickly, and then silence. Regret. The moment passed, but the feeling stayed. We've all been there. And what's most surprising is how different everything might have felt if we had paused just for a breath. One breath. That's all it takes sometimes. Just 1 second between what happens and how you respond. That little space holds more power than we realize. In that gap, you can choose calm instead of chaos. You can choose understanding over anger. And that simple pause can shift the entire direction of your day, or even your life. Think about standing in a long line at a store. You're tired. The person in front of you is slow. The cashier seems distracted. You feel the heat rising inside. Maybe your hands clench, your shoulders tense. You want to speak up. But then, what if you paused? Just long enough to take one slow breath. That small act changes everything. The tension may not disappear, but now you're no longer feeding it. You're watching it, letting it move through instead of out. This pause isn't a weakness. Its strength is disguised as stillness. Most people think power is in being fast, loud, or sharp with words. But true power is in control. And control doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means noticing it without letting it take the wheel. In relationships, this pause becomes even more important. Imagine someone you care about says something that hits a nerve. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself, argue back, or walk away. But reactions in those quick moments can do lasting damage. If instead you breathe, notice your feelings, and wait before speaking, suddenly you create a room. Room for clarity, room for compassion, room for truth. This pause doesn't only help with words, it also helps with actions. You might feel an urge to slam a door, send a message, make a choice, right now. But some decisions don't need your fast answer. They need your slow thinking. Even 5 seconds of stillness can bring a different view, a view that protects your peace instead of breaking it. Let's take a small example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your body reacts instantly. Maybe your heart beats faster. Maybe your jaw tightens. That's normal. But what comes next is up to you. Do you yell? Do you chase them? Or do you pause, breathe, and remember, it's not worth it? That small pause might be invisible to others, but inside, it's everything. Sometimes the person we react to is ourselves. You might make a mistake, drop something, forget something, and the words come fast. I'm so stupid. But if you pause, just for a breath, you might notice that those words don't help. They don't heal. And in that quiet moment, you can choose something kinder. It's okay. I'm learning. That single pause makes you your own friend instead of your own critic. This is where deeper themes come in. In belief, for example, we often react to ideas that challenge us. If someone sees the world differently, we might feel a quick urge to prove them wrong. But if we pause, we can listen instead of defend. And sometimes we find not agreement, but understanding. That's more powerful than winning an argument. In language, the pause is part of how we shape our message. A quiet space in a sentence can carry more meaning than a dozen rushed words. In that silence, the listener leans in. They feel what's being said, not just hear it. It's the same with your own inner language. Pausing before you label yourself or someone else lets you speak with more care, more truth. Mental health, too, benefits from this space. Anxiety often wants fast answers, fast fixes, fast reactions. But the body and mind need slowness to feel safe. A pause tells your nervous system, you're okay. You're allowed to slow down. This doesn't solve everything, but it opens the door. And sometimes that's enough for now. Even in the world of machines and AI, timing matters. Systems respond in microseconds, but developers build in pauses, checks, balances, and layers that prevent errors. Those small pauses ensure accuracy. Your brain works the same way. Without space, thoughts can crash. With space, they find order. Let's take it to an exam setting. You read a question, and panic sets in. You don't know the answer. Your hand wants to rush, guess, move on. But what if you closed your eyes for 3 seconds? One breath in, one breath out. Often, the answer floats up through the stillness, not because you worked harder, but because you gave your mind room to work. We live in a fast world. Everything tells us to reply now, decide now, fix now. But some of the best outcomes come from waiting. Not forever. Just enough to hear your own thoughts. Just enough to calm the storm before it starts. In your own life, start by practicing with small things. The next time your phone buzzes and you feel that tug to check it, pause. Ask yourself if now is the right time. The next time someone interrupts you, pause. Notice how you feel. That moment of awareness might be all you need to respond better. Try this too. Before a conversation, Take one deep breath. Let it settle. You, before a big choice, step away, even for a minute. The world can wait. Your peace is more important than speed. I wonder, have you ever had a moment where pausing changed everything? Maybe you didn't say something you would have regretted, or maybe you noticed a new thought you hadn't seen before. Share in the comments where you're listening from and what that pause taught you. Your story might be the quiet reminder someone else needs tonight. Remember, your reactions don't define you. Your awareness does. The pause is not a delay, it's a decision, a gentle moment that gives you the chance to choose again. And in that choice, you reclaim your calm, your clarity, and your direction, all from one breath, 1 second, one pause. Value inner peace. You could have everything, money, recognition, even applause from a room full of people, and still feel empty when you're alone. Why does that happen? Why does the mind stay restless, even after we've checked all the boxes that the world says matter? Maybe it's because peace isn't something we find out there. It's something we build inside, and too often we trade it away without noticing. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever achieved something you worked hard for? Maybe a good grade, a promotion, or something you bought, but still felt unsettled afterward? Maybe you thought, is this all? That quiet question can feel strange, even uncomfortable, but it's also a gentle signal. A reminder that success, on its own, is not the same as peace. There's a difference between looking successful and feeling peaceful. One is how others see you. The other is how you sit with yourself at the end of the day. And that feeling, being able to sit with yourself and feel light, calm, and steady, that's what matters most. Now think about your daily routine. From the moment you wake up, your mind is pulled in every direction. Messages, schedules, noise, deadlines. Everyone wants a piece of you, and if you're not careful, your peace gets chipped away before the day even starts. Imagine your mind like a calm lake. Each distraction, worry, or judgment is a stone thrown into it. 1 or 2 stones, and the water ripples but settles. But constant stones. The lake never has a chance to rest. And just like that, your inner world becomes cloudy and loud. That's why protecting your calm is not just nice. It's necessary. One way to do this is by choosing what you allow in. Not everything deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves space in your head. Some people can visit, but they don't need to stay. The same is true for comparison. It's easy to look at someone else's life and feel behind. But their story isn't yours, and their pace doesn't define your peace. A simple example: social media. You scroll through perfect images and smiling faces, and slowly, without realizing, you start questioning your own life. But what you see isn't the full picture. It's edited, selected, filtered, and chasing that version of success can lead you far from peace. Or consider this. You're in a room full of people, and someone questions your choices. The old version of you might explain, defend, argue, but the peaceful version just smiles, because when you know yourself, you don't need to prove it. That's real strength, and it's born from stillness, not noise. Now let's talk about belief. Many of us are taught to chase certain things, grades, jobs, titles, as if they are the final goal. And yes, those things can be good. But without peace, even the best achievements feel hollow. When belief turns into pressure, it can rob us of the joy of simply being. But when belief includes rest, reflection, and quiet confidence, it becomes a safe place, not a race. Language plays a role too. Notice the words you use with yourself. Do you say, "I have to succeed," or do you say, "I want to grow"? The first creates tension. The second allows space. That space is where peace lives. How you speak to yourself shapes your world more than you think. Now let's go deeper. Mental health. A restless mind isn't just tired. It's weird. Constantly thinking, planning, comparing. It doesn't stop even at night. That's why so many people struggle to sleep, even in a quiet room, Because the real noise isn't outside, it's inside. But here's something powerful. Peace doesn't always need silence. It needs permission. Permission to slow down, to not be perfect, to not have all the answers. Peace is not the absence of challenge. It's the presence of trust. Trust in yourself, your timing, and your truth. Even in technology, we can see this lesson. Think about your phone. If too many apps run at once, the battery drains fast. The system overheats. It lags. But when you close the background apps, the phone works better. Your mind is the same. You don't need to solve every problem today. Some can wait. Some can pass. Try this. Tomorrow morning, before touching your phone, take 1 minute. Just one. Sit, breathe, and ask, how do I feel? Don't try to fix anything. Just notice. That simple act, repeated each day, builds a habit of awareness. And awareness is the foundation of peace. Another small shift: spend time with people who make you feel safe. Not just those who are fun or successful, but those with calm eyes and steady words. Their presence reminds you of your own calm, and in their company, you don't have to perform. You can simply be. I'd love to know, where are you listening from right now? And what helps you feel peaceful? Maybe it's the sound of rain, the hum of a fan, or the way your blanket feels. Or maybe it's a quiet moment by yourself, just like this one. Share in the comments. Your moment might inspire someone else to slow down too. And remember this: you don't need to earn peace. You only need to choose it. Each time you say no to chaos, no to pressure, no to proving, you say yes to yourself. Yes to your breath. Yes to the soft space inside you that just wants to feel safe. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. But when you feel it, everything else becomes clearer. You move slower, but with purpose. You speak less, but with meaning. You rest more, but feel stronger. So protect that peace. Guard it like a treasure. Because when your mind is calm, you see better, think better, love better. And in the quiet moments, you remember, you were never behind. You were just learning how to come home to yourself. Accept unseen limits. Have you ever stood outside on a clear night, looked up at the stars, and felt something strange, like both wonder and confusion at the same time? That quiet moment under the sky reminds us, there is so much we don't understand. And maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe it's okay not to know everything. We grow up thinking that if we just try hard enough, we'll figure it all out. We'll understand why things happen, how people think, where life is headed. But the deeper you go, the more you realize, some things don't come with answers. Some questions stay open. And strangely, that's not a failure. That's part of being human. Let me ask you, have you ever faced a situation where you kept asking yourself, why is this happening? Maybe it was during a hard time, or when someone you trusted acted in a way that didn't make sense. You thought and thought, trying to solve it like a puzzle. But the pieces didn't fit. The more you tried, the more confused you felt. And the answer never came. If that's ever happened to you, you're not alone. We've all been there. In those moments, we meet the edge of what we can understand. And it can be scary. But there's something powerful about accepting that edge. When you stop forcing meaning, something else enters. Peace. Like finally letting go of a knot you've been trying to untie for too long. Think of the ocean. You can swim in it, float on it, even dive deep into it. But you'll never touch the bottom of every part. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're part of something bigger. Something not meant to be fully held, only felt. Life is like that too. There's a strange kind of freedom in admitting you don't know. It removes pressure. It allows room for curiosity instead of fear. It lets you say, maybe I don't need the answer right now. Maybe the question is enough. Now, look at everyday life. When something goes wrong, what do we usually do? We panic. We try to explain it right away. We want closure. A reason. But not all reasons arrive on schedule. Some come months later. Some never do. And learning to live with that space, with that mystery, is a quiet kind of strength. In school, we're taught that every question has one correct answer. But real life isn't like a test. Sometimes there's no right option. Sometimes there are two truths that seem to disagree, and yet both feel real. That's okay too. Let's talk about belief. Many people grow up thinking their way of seeing the world is the only correct one. It feels safe to think that way. But what if someone else sees the same thing completely differently? Are they wrong, or just standing in a different spot? When we hold too tightly to the idea that we must have the final answer, we close our minds. But when we allow for uncertainty, we grow in empathy. We listen more. We learn more. Even language has its limits. We use words to describe feelings, but sometimes words aren't enough. How do you explain a sunrise to someone who's never seen one, or grief to someone who hasn't felt it? You try, but the truth slips between the sentences. That's not a weakness in language. It's a reminder that not everything can be captured. Some things are meant to be lived, not explained. This also touches mental health. So much of inner struggle comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Thoughts like, what if this happens? Or, why didn't that happen? Spin in circles. But peace comes when we say, I don't know, and that's okay. That sentence, spoken softly, can be healing. It gives your mind permission to rest. Now let's stretch this idea into modern life. In a world full of data, we believe we can know everything. There's a video, a post, a quote for every topic. We ask a question, we get an answer. But real wisdom isn't always about speed. It's about sitting with questions longer than feels comfortable. Like watching a flower bloom, not with a click, but slowly, quietly. Even artificial intelligence, as advanced as it is, has limits. It processes, it predicts, but it doesn't feel the unknown in the same way we do. That's what makes being human so rare. We can wonder, we can doubt, we can accept mystery without needing to fix it. That's not a flaw, that's depth. Here's something small you can try. The next time something confuses you, something that doesn't make sense right away, pause. Don't rush to explain it. Just sit with it. Breathe into it. Say to yourself, maybe I'm not supposed to know this right now. Watch how your body relaxes. Watch how your thoughts slow down. Sometimes the best gift we can give ourselves is space. And you're not alone in this. Everyone carries their own unanswered questions. Maybe someone you know seems confident, but inside, they're wondering too. They just haven't said it out loud. So if you're listening to this right now, and you've ever felt lost or uncertain, share it. Tell us where you're from and one thing in life that still feels mysterious to you. You might find someone else has wondered the same thing. Here's a final thought. We often search for answers to feel safe. But maybe the real safety isn't in knowing. It's in trusting. Trusting that life moves forward, even without full understanding. Trusting that time can reveal things we can't see yet. Trusting that mystery doesn't mean chaos. Sometimes, it just means more is happening than we can hold all at once. And in that space of not knowing, something beautiful can happen. You slow down. You listen deeper. You become more kind, not only to others, but to yourself. So tonight, as you lie in bed, if your mind starts to wander into the unknown, don't fight it. Let it float. Let the questions stay questions. You don't need to fix them. You only need to rest. Because peace is not always found in the answer. Sometimes, it's found in the gentle permission to let go. Focus on process. Have you ever worked really hard on something, only to feel disappointed when the outcome wasn't what you hoped? Maybe it was an exam you studied for, a project you put your heart into, or a goal you chased for months. You gave it everything, but still felt let down. It's strange, isn't it? How something can feel like a failure even when you did your best. But what if the real value wasn't in the result at all? What if it was in the care you gave each step? Sometimes we place all our attention on the finish line. We believe we'll finally feel good once we arrive there, once we win, once we succeed. But then we get there and the feeling doesn't last. It fades quickly, and we begin chasing the next thing, again and again. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips through before you can enjoy it. But what if you shifted your focus? What if, instead of racing forward, you slowed down and really paid attention to each step you were taking? I'd love to ask you something. Is there a moment in your life where the journey ended up being more meaningful than the result? Maybe it was a time you were learning something new or building something by hand. Even if the end product wasn't perfect, did something about the process itself stay with you? If so, you're not alone. Many people find their quietest joy not in the achievement, but in the slow, steady path toward it. Think about a long walk on a cool morning. The air is still. Your steps are soft. You're not trying to get anywhere fast. You just walk. And as you walk, you begin to notice things. The sound of leaves, the shape of clouds, the rhythm of your breath. There's peace in that. And strangely, if someone were to ask, "Where are you going?" you might not even know. But it doesn't matter. Because the act of walking itself is a gift. That's how life often works. We get so caught up in results, marks, awards, promotions, praise, that we forget to notice the beauty in the small efforts. In the focus, in the car, in the quiet repetition of trying again. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine someone is learning to cook. The first few tries are messy. Things burn. Recipes are confusing. But if they enjoy the process, cutting vegetables with care, stirring slowly, tasting with curiosity, then even a failed meal feels worth it. The process brings calm. The mistakes become part of the story. And over time, something deeper grows. Confidence, presence, maybe even love for the craft itself. Or take another example. Someone trying to build strength. They go to the gym or exercise at home. Day after day, they move through the same steps. Some days feel good. Others feel heavy. But they stay consistent. Not just because they want results, but because something about the routine grounds them. It gives their day structure, meaning. And even if progress is slow, they keep going, because the process has become part of who they are. Now stretch this idea out a bit more. Think about belief systems. In some traditions, rituals are repeated not because they bring a big reward at the end, but because the act itself brings clarity. The process becomes a way of remembering, of staying close to something meaningful. The value isn't in finishing, it's returning again and again, each time with care. This touches mental health too. When people are healing, from stress or sadness or confusion, they often want to feel better quickly. But real healing doesn't work like a switch. It's not fast or flashy, it's slow, often invisible. It lives in small steps, taking a walk, drinking water, saying no when needed, saying yes when ready. And if you only focus on how far you have left to go, it's easy to feel like you're not getting anywhere. But if you notice each step, each little act of care, you start to see something else. You're already moving forward. In today's world, everything feels fast. We want instant results, instant feedback. But speed isn't always what we need. Sometimes it's the slow things, the quiet efforts that shape us the most. Like planting a seed, you water it, but it doesn't grow overnight. You don't stare at the soil and shout, "Grow!" You just trust. You return each day. You care for it. And in time, something rises from the earth. Even artificial intelligence, while it can give fast answers, can't replicate the human experience of patience. It doesn't feel like the calm of taking time. It doesn't find comfort in repetition, but you do. You can. That's what makes you different. Let's bring this back to your own life. Is there something you're working on right now? Something that feels slow, maybe even frustrating? Try this. Instead of asking, "When will I finish?" ask, "How can I bring more care to this moment?" You might find that the work itself becomes easier. Not because it changed, but because your focus did. And if you're listening to this, I'd love to hear where you're from and what part of your life you're learning to slow down in. Maybe it's studying. Maybe it's working. Maybe it's just learning how to rest. You're not alone. There's a quiet community of people all around the world who are learning the same thing. Results fade, but presence stays. Here's one last image to hold in your mind. Imagine someone is building a sandcastle by the sea. They know the tide will come. They know it will wash everything away, but they keep building. Carefully, joyfully. Not because they expect it to last, but because the act of building means something. It connects them to the earth, to their breath, to the moment. That's what the process is. A return to the present, a reminder that life isn't something you win, it's something you live, one careful, gentle step at a time. So tonight, as you slow down and prepare for rest, take a quiet breath. Let go of results. Let go of needing to know how it all turns out. And instead, ask yourself, how can I bring more care to each step? Because that is where peace lives, not in the ending, but in the calm rhythm of the process itself. Practice radical kindness. Have you ever done something kind for someone, not expecting anything in return, only to feel lighter afterward, as if some invisible weight had quietly lifted? It's strange how something so simple can feel so powerful. Maybe it was holding a door open, offering your seat, or just sharing a quiet smile with someone who looked like they needed it. Small moments, easy to miss, easy to forget, but they carry a weight that echoes longer than we think. If you're listening right now, take a moment to think. When was the last time someone did something kind for you without a reason? Maybe it was a stranger who waved you into a lane of traffic, or someone who waited patiently when you were feeling slow. These gestures don't cost anything, but their value is impossible to measure. We often imagine the world is harsh and competitive, that to succeed, we must always push forward, faster and stronger. But there's another path, a quieter one, where kindness becomes the most powerful act of all. It's radical not because it's loud, but because it quietly defies the rush of modern life. In a world that hurries, kindness pauses. In a world that takes, kindness gives. And what's curious is how often those who give the most seem to have the most. Not in money or status, but in calm, in peace, in presence. Their lives might not be perfect, but there's a softness in how they move through the world, as if they've found something deeper than success, something more human. Try it tomorrow, or even now. Pick one small act of kindness, nothing big, nothing difficult. Let someone go ahead, in line. Leave a note of encouragement on someone's desk. Pick up something a stranger dropped, and notice how it makes you feel, not just in that moment, but afterward. There's a strange secret here. The more kindness you give, the more the world seems to soften. It's not magic. It's just a connection. We all carry stories, struggles, and doubts that no one can see. When you act kindly, you acknowledge that unseen truth. You say, I see you, even if just a little. And this practice, it doesn't ask you to fix the world, just to notice it, to respond gently instead of harshly, to choose the slower path. And over time, that path becomes home. A place where your nervous system feels less threatened, where people feel safe around you, where your own mind starts to quiet down. Think of a river. It doesn't shout, but it shapes mountains. Kindness works the same way. It's soft, but it changes things. It cuts through anger. It cools tension. It builds trust quietly, in places you never expected. And here's something even more curious. Sometimes kindness returns to you in ways you can't predict. Maybe not right away, maybe not even directly, but eventually the goodness you send out finds its way back, often when you need it most, not because you earned it, but because you opened the space for it to exist. In that way, kindness isn't just a gift to others. It's a form of self-protection, a way of saying, I want to live in a world where we take care of each other, even when it's inconvenient. even when no one's watching, even when we're tired. If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Many people quietly believe in the power of kindness, but don't always know where to begin. So let's begin here, together. Let this be a place where kindness isn't a performance, but a quiet choice, where we don't need to change the world overnight, just touch it gently where we can. You don't have to be perfect, just a present, and you don't have to be strong, just sincere. Kindness doesn't require grand gestures, only small truths, shared often, spoken softly, and lived with care. So tonight, as you wind down, let yourself think of a single kind moment from your day. Replay it slowly. Let it settle in your body like warmth. Let it remind you that even in a noisy world, you have the power to bring peace. Kindness is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's how we remember we belong to each other, and how, little by little, we make the world less lonely. Trade control, surrender. Have you ever tried to hold onto water in your hands? The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. It feels like failure, until you open your hand and let the water rest in your palm. Suddenly, you can have it. This simple act holds a surprising lesson. The moment we let go of what we can't change, our energy flows freely into what we can. We spend so much of our lives trying to control people, outcomes, and even our own thoughts. We check the weather forecast again, hoping it will change. We refresh our exam scores, willing the numbers to be different. We replay conversations in our minds, wishing we'd spoken another word. But control is an illusion. The skies don't clear on command. Grades arrive on their own schedule. Words once spoken can't be rewritten. The more we push against reality, the more tension we create inside. Each effort to force or fix something we can't change little outside, but it leaves us drained within. We become like a river dammed too tightly. The water builds pressure, churns, and loses its gentle flow. Yet there is another way. Imagine shifting your focus from pushing to releasing. When the rain arrives, you open your umbrella, or you dance in the drops. When the exam score isn't what you hoped, you study what you can learn, then rest. When a conversation ends badly, you let the moment pass, and you carry its lesson quietly forward. In each case, surrender isn't giving up. It's choosing where your energy goes. Think of a tree in the wind. It bends, it sways, it doesn't fight each gust, it yields, and in yielding, it survives. Control would have it stand rigid, only to crack under pressure. But surrender lets it remain flexible, alive and growing. In relationships, this paradox is clear. We try to control what others do or feel. We demand apologies, explanations, or changes. But people resist being controlled. The more we push, the more they pull away. If instead we surrender our need to fix them, we open space for true connection. We listen. We accept. We see the person as they are. And in that space, trust can grow. In belief, surrender means embracing mystery. We want certainty about life's big questions. Why we're here, what happens next. But rigid beliefs can fracture when new ideas arise. If we surrender our need for final answers, we create room for wonder, for questions that guide us rather than confine us. Language itself reveals this paradox. Words can describe or they can demand. When we say, "I must," or "I have to," we tighten our grip on outcomes. But if we say, "I choose," or "I allow," we open our minds. Suddenly, options appear that were hidden by our own insistence. Mental health depends on this surrender. Anxiety often springs from trying to predict and control the future. Depression can come from feeling powerless over events. But when we learn to release what we can't change, storms, scores, other people's choices, we free ourselves to focus on what we can, our breath, our steps, our kindness. That shift brings calm. Even in AI and technology, we see the value of release. Algorithms are trained to adjust. To surrender old weights when new data arrives. If a model clings to outdated patterns, it fails. But when it lets go, it learns, it adapts, it grows more accurately. Try this small exercise. Notice one thing today that you can't change. Maybe it's the traffic outside, the weather, or a message you already sent. Breathe in. Breathe out. Say to yourself, I release what I cannot change. Feel how your body softens. Notice where your energy shifts, perhaps toward looking for a new route home, or planning a fresh response tomorrow. I'd love to hear from you. What did you release today? Where are you listening from, and how did it feel to let go? Share in the comments. Your story might help someone else trade control for calm. Remember, the river never fights its banks. It surrenders to the path, and in doing so, it moves forward. When you trade control for surrender, your energy flows where it can do the most good, into the present moment, into gentle action, and into the quiet power of acceptance. Seek quiet moments. Have you ever noticed how the loudest thoughts appear only when everything around you becomes still? Not when you're rushing through the day or scrolling through your phone, but in those rare moments when the noise fades and the world holds its breath. There's something mysterious about quiet. It doesn't shout for your attention. It waits, patiently, until you're ready to listen. And often, what you hear in that silence is something you've been missing all along. We live in a world that never seems to stop. From the second we wake up, there's movement. Messages, updates, tasks, traffic, and conversations. Noise fills the space. Not just sound, but mental noise, emotional noise. Our minds bounce from thought to thought like a pinball, never resting. And yet, deep inside, there's a different rhythm, a slower one that only shows itself when we pause. Think about the last time you sat quietly without doing anything, not watching a screen, not reading or talking, just sitting. Maybe it was during a power cut, or in a park early in the morning, or when you woke up in the middle of the night and everything was silent. Those are the moments when something shifts. You begin to notice your breath, the beat of your heart, the hum of life around you, and beneath all that, a deeper voice, your own inner truth. It's not always easy to find this quiet. The world rewards speed and noise. People expect answers fast. Productivity is praised more than reflection. But speed can be a distraction. Noise can hide things we don't want to face. Sometimes we avoid silence because we're afraid of what it might reveal. But that fear is a clue. It means there's something inside us waiting to be understood. Take a simple example. Imagine you're preparing for an exam. You've been studying for hours, jumping between topics, reading notes, and testing yourself. Your brain feels full, but none of it seems to stay. So you stop. You take 10 minutes and just sit with your eyes closed. You don't force thoughts to go away. You just let them pass. In that quiet space, you begin to feel calmer. The facts settle. Your mind, once a storm, becomes a lake. And when you return to study, it feels different. Lighter, clearer, focused. Or picture another moment, a conflict with someone. Tension rises, voices get louder, and emotions take over. But if you pause and step outside for a few quiet breaths, something inside shifts. You return with less fire, more understanding. The silence gave you space to remember what really matters. Not winning the argument, but preserving peace. Even in nature, silence holds power. Mountains don't shout, yet they inspire awe. Oceans don't argue, yet they draw us in. Trees don't rush, but they grow, steadily, quietly. If we could live more like that, even for a few minutes a day, imagine what we might discover. Mental health lives in this silence. Our minds, like machines, need rest. But not just sleep. Stillness, a place where thoughts can slow down, where we can breathe without pressure. For some, that quiet moment is prayer. For others, it's meditation or a walk alone. Some find it in listening to music with their eyes closed. Others find it staring at the sky. The method doesn't matter. What matters is that the noise fades enough for your truth to rise. Even technology, for all its speed, has its quiet cycles. Devices need to cool down. Systems go into sleep mode. Programs reset. We are not so different. We need pauses. We need moments where we are not performing, fixing, planning, or pleasing, just being. Language, too, is shaped by silence. The most powerful parts of speech are often not the words, but the pauses, the space between phrases, a moment of stillness after a question, a breath before a big idea. Without these quiet gaps, language would overwhelm us. Silence gives meaning to sound. In our digital world, quiet can feel like a lost art. But it's not gone. It's just hidden, beneath the noise, beneath the rush. You can find it in the early morning before the world wakes up. You can find it in the way the sun rests on your face. You can find it in the rhythm of your steps as you walk alone. You can even find it in your own breath if you stop long enough to follow it. I wonder, where do you find your quiet? Do you have a place or time in the day when the noise fades and your thoughts settle? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what silence means to you. We often think we need more answers, more plans, more control. But sometimes what we need is less. Less noise, less pressure, less doing. In that space, our mind can finally hear what it's been trying to say. Not the loud worries or the quick fixes, but the quiet truths, the ones that don't change with mood or weather. So today, take a moment, just one. Find a quiet corner. Sit or stand or lie down. Close your eyes if you want. Breathe. Let the noise pass. Let your shoulders drop. Let your thoughts rise and fall like waves. And listen, not for something outside, but for something inside. You might be surprised at what you hear, because in that stillness, your deepest truths are waiting, not to be chased, but simply to be heard. Reframe your failures. Have you ever looked back at a moment that felt like the end of the world, only to realize later it was actually the beginning of something better? It's strange how that works. At the time, it hurt. You feel stuck, broken, maybe even embarrassed. But with time and space, something shifts. You begin to see that what felt like failure was actually a teacher in disguise, one that didn't whisper lessons politely, but one that pushed you into a deeper kind of understanding. We all fail. That's not a surprise. What's surprising is how often we treat failure like a final judgment, as if it says something permanent about who we are. But what if that's not true? What if failure isn't the opposite of success, but a necessary step toward it? What if the mistake you made yesterday is actually the reason you'll grow tomorrow? Think about this for a second. You're learning to ride a bicycle. The first few tries didn't go well. You fall, you wobble. Maybe you even scrape your knee. At that moment, it feels like you're just not made for it. But with each fall, you learn something new. How to balance, how to steer, how to feel the road. And slowly, you get better. Until one day, you're riding smoothly, wind in your face, wondering why it seemed so hard before. Now apply that same thought to something bigger. Maybe a job interview that didn't go well, or a test you studied for but still didn't pass, or a dream you chased that didn't turn out the way you hoped. At first, these moments sting. They feel like proof that you aren't enough. But that's only true if you stop there. If you pause and ask, "What can I learn from this?" the story changes. Let's take another example. Imagine you trusted someone, and that trust was broken. You feel foolish, hurt. It might even shake your confidence in people. But over time, if you reflect, you might realize that moment taught you something about boundaries, or about listening to your gut, or about what kind of people you truly want around you. It wasn't just pain, it was a guide. The paradox is this: failure feels like the end, but it often plants the seeds of something more real, something wiser. If you only see the fall, you miss the lesson. But if you look deeper, you'll find the hidden gift. I wonder, has this happened to you? Have you ever failed at something, only to discover it taught you something far more valuable than success would have? Feel free to share your story in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from, and what you've learned through falling down. Even in school, failure can teach us more than we realize. Suppose you got a poor grade in math. It's easy to feel defeated. But when you look closer, you notice you didn't really understand the early steps. That realization pushes you to revisit them. Suddenly you grasp something you missed before. And next time, you don't just pass. You understand it deeply. Without the failure, you might have kept going without truly learning. Our brains are wired to avoid pain. So when we fail, our first reaction is often shame or denial. But if we can sit with that discomfort just a little longer, we'll find it often holds the key to change, like a mirror showing us what we couldn't see before. Not to hurt us, but to help us see clearly. Even in language, there's something powerful about how we talk to ourselves during failure. Saying "I failed" feels heavy. It feels final. But changing it to "this didn't work out this time" opens a door. It leaves space for trying again, for growth. Words matter. How we frame the story in our heads shapes the path forward. In the world of artificial intelligence, systems are trained by making mistakes, again and again, until they learn to do better. They don't get discouraged. They don't take failure personally. They just adjust. Humans are more emotional, of course. But the idea still holds. Learning is built on trial and error. And error is not the enemy. It's the process. Think of your favorite invention, your favorite song, your favorite athlete. Behind every success there are stories of failure. Missed shots, rejected ideas, broken attempts. But those failures didn't stop the journey. In fact, they shaped it. They tested commitment. They revealed what mattered most. Even nature understands failure. Trees lose their leaves. The ground cracks in drought. Animals get injured and still adapt. Seasons shift. Nothing in life is in a straight line. There's beauty in the back and forth. In falling, rising, and learning. So the next time you fail, and you will, try this. Pause. Breathe. Ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? Not in anger, not in fear, but with curiosity. It won't erase the pain, but it might turn that pain into something softer, something useful. A guide for your next step. We are not meant to be perfect. We are meant to grow. And growth comes with bruises. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Quiet, patient, earned wisdom. So when things don't go your way, remember, there may be a gift hiding inside. Not a reward you can see right away, but something better. A lesson that stays. A shift in how you see yourself. A deeper strength that only failure could reveal. You're not alone in this. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is what you do next. So be kind to yourself. Let the lesson rise, and keep going. One honest step at a time. Honor your limits. Have you ever noticed how even your phone needs to recharge? It runs out of battery after too much use, and it won't work well until it rests. We accept that without question. But when it comes to ourselves, we often forget. We push, we hustle, we keep going even when we know we're tired, even when our body or mind whispers, "Please stop." There's something strange about how we treat rest. Many people see it as a weakness, like it means you're not trying hard enough. But what if rest isn't the opposite of strength? What if it's the very thing that builds it? Think about muscles. When you work out, your muscles actually break down a little. They don't grow during lifting or running. They grow during rest. That quiet time after effort is when healing happens. Strength is rebuilt not through more pressure, but through space, through softness. And the same is true for your thoughts, your emotions, and your heart. After a hard day, a tough conversation, a big decision, or even just the noise of life, you need time to return to yourself. Not to do more, but to simply be, to breathe, to feel, to let the pieces settle. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to pause. Have you felt that way lately? Like you're carrying too much, but still pretending it's fine? Maybe you're in a place right now where you need rest, but feel guilty for taking it. I invite you to share your story in the comments. Let others know where you're watching from, And if you've also been learning how to slow down. There's a kind of pressure in the world that says, we always have to be doing more. Wake up early, stay up late, reach goals, chase results. But that constant pressure can flatten us, like a river that overflows, not because it rains, but because it's never given time to drain. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop, lie down, sit in silence, take a walk without your phone, or simply look out the window for a while. These are small moments, but they matter. They let your mind breathe. They let your body come back to balance. You don't need to earn rest. You deserve it just by being human, just by living. Even machines pause. Even the earth turns from day into night. Nothing stays active all the time. The sun rests. The moon rises. The tides pull back. You are not less valuable when you rest. You are simply in a different part of your rhythm. Remember the last time you were sick. Your body forced you to stop. It knew what your mind ignored, that healing needs space. Recovery takes time. And if you don't take that time willingly, sometimes your body will take it for you, through exhaustion, through burnout, through breakdown. But we don't have to wait until we collapse. We can choose to honor our limits before we reach them, to notice the signs, the tight shoulders, the racing thoughts, the heavy eyes, and to treat them not as problems, but as signals, as gentle reminders that we need care. Even in school or work, pushing too hard for too long often leads to less. Focus, not more. You forget things. You make small mistakes. You feel frustrated over little things. That's not because you're weak. It's because you're human. And like any human, you need rest. There's a calm wisdom in knowing your limits, in saying, I've done enough for today, in turning off the lights early, I'm not replying to every message, in letting the day end without squeezing in more. And sometimes, rest doesn't even mean sleep. It can mean quiet. It can mean stepping away from stress. It can mean stillness, music, prayer, or breath. Whatever brings you back to center. Even language shows us something. We say, break, down when we fall apart. But we also say break time when we pause to restore. Both breaks are real, but only one leads to peace. This idea touches deeper things, too. Mental health is not just about what goes wrong, it's also about what we give ourselves when nothing is demanded. Silence, slowness, a chance to listen to the voice inside that often gets drowned out. Even in technology, there's a parallel. If you leave too many tabs open, your computer slows down. Sometimes it crashes. But when you restart it, everything works better. Your brain is the same, your soul is the same. We live in a world that rewards noise, but it's in the quiet where we often find truth, where ideas come, where understanding grows, not through rush, but through rest. So tonight, or whenever you hear this, ask yourself gently, have I honored my limits today? Not in guilt, not in fear, but with kindness, with care. Your strength does not come from how much you endure. It comes from how well you listen to your body, to your heart, to your breath. There is no weakness in stopping. There is wisdom. There is balance. And there is a quiet kind of strength that grows not in doing, but in being. So take your rest. Trust it. Let it hold you. And know that in that stillness, your real strength is growing. Simplify your choices. Have you ever stood in front of a menu with dozens of options and felt your mind go blank? So many choices, yet you end up more stressed than satisfied. It's strange. More options should mean more freedom, but often they bring confusion instead. When we simplify, we clear the fog. We see the path ahead. Imagine picking an outfit for the day. You open your closet and there are 20 shirts, 5 pairs of pants, 3 jackets, and endless combinations. You try one, then another, and another, until you feel frustrated. What if instead you kept just 3 outfits ready? You'd choose quickly, feel confident, and start your day with calm. Fewer options mean less doubt. In exams, too many strategies. can cause panic. You learn multiple ways to solve a problem: long division, shortcuts, estimation. But when the test arrives, your mind flips between methods. Your time dissolves in uncertainty. But if you master one clear method, you trust it, you focus, you perform. Simplifying your approach sharpens your mind. Relationships can mirror this. We expect people to behave in countless possible ways. When someone acts differently, we wonder which version we'll face today. But if we simplify our expectations, honesty, kindness, respect, we see more clearly. We respond to what is, not what could be. Our hearts rest in the simple truth of shared values. Think about belief. Some systems offer endless rules. We try to follow them all and feel we fail. But when belief is distilled to its core, love, compassion, presence, it guides without burdening. The simple essence becomes a compass, not a checklist. Language works like this too. Words have nuance and exceptions, but simple phrases. Be kind, stay present, do your best, carry power. They're easy to remember. They cut through noise. They shape our day with gentle clarity. In mental health, choices matter. When anxious, we might research dozens of coping tools, apps, exercises, diets, only to feel overwhelmed. What if we pick one small practice, 5 deep breaths each morning, and stick with it? That single habit can anchor us to more than 10 half-learned techniques. Even AI faces this paradox. Too many variables in a model can lead to overfitting. Beautiful results on old data, but failure on new. Simpler models with fewer parameters often generalize better. They see the core patterns without chasing every detail. Less can be more. Try a small experiment. Tomorrow, choose just 2 options for breakfast. 2 routes to work. 2 tasks to focus on. Notice how your mind feels. The fog may lift. You may find energy you didn't know was lost in indecision. I'd love to know, where are you simplifying right now? Perhaps in your morning routine, your study habits, or your friendships. Share your story and location in the comments. Let's build a quiet community of simplicity seekers. Remember, life offers infinite possibilities, but you don't need them all at once. By narrowing your focus, you open space for depth, ease, and peace. Simplify your choices, and watch how your world becomes clearer, one gentle decision at a time. Cultivate beginner's mind. Have you ever watched a child see snow for the first time? They don't ask if it's practical. They don't complain that it's cold. They just look wide-eyed, catching flakes on their tongue, laughing at how it melts in their hands. That moment, so simple, so pure, is in a beginner's mind. The ability to experience something familiar as if it were brand new. Over time, we forget how to do that. We see the same faces, take the same routes, do the same tasks. Our minds begin to drift, not from boredom, but from habit. We stop noticing. We stop wondering. We say, "I've seen this before," and move on. But what if we paused? What if we looked again? Not with the eyes of someone who knows, but with the heart of someone who's just arrived. Think about something as ordinary as brushing your teeth. You've done it thousands of times. The sound, the foam, the water, it's just routine now. But if you slow down, if you pay attention, it becomes something different. The feeling of bristles on your gums, the cool rush of mint, the small miracle of cleanliness. Suddenly, it's not just hygiene, it's presence. Beginner's mind lets you wake up inside your own life. In exams, a beginner's mind can be powerful. You might think you've solved a certain kind of problem before, so you rush. But sometimes that rush leads to mistakes. You assume instead of seeing. But when you approach each question like it's the first time, you read more carefully. You understand more deeply. You notice details others miss. You begin again, not because you don't know, but because you're choosing to see. Relationships need a beginner's mind, too. Over the years, we think we know someone. We stop listening closely. We finish their sentences. We expect their reactions. But what if we chose to see them fresh each day? Not as someone defined by the past, but as someone unfolding in front of us. Then, even in silence, we might hear something new. Even in old habits, we might notice something beautiful. Wonder returns when we stop assuming. Even belief benefits from this. When we hold a belief for a long time, it becomes solid, fixed. But life isn't fixed. It moves, it changes. Beginner's mind doesn't mean throwing beliefs away. It means holding them gently, asking, "What if I looked at this again?" And sometimes, in that second look, you find something deeper than before. In language, a beginner's mind can feel like poetry. We've heard words like sky, wind, tree 1,000 times, but the first time we really see them, they feel alive. When you speak or write with a beginner's mind, you don't reach for fancy words. You reach for true ones. Words that feel fresh. Words that connect. Mental health, too, is touched by this. Often, we tell ourselves stories. I've always been anxious. I never do well under pressure. These become facts in our minds. But what if we question them gently? What if we said, that may have been true before, but what if today is different? Beginner's mind gives us space to change. It softens the story. It allows for healing. Even AI, in its design, learns best not by being told what to expect, but by seeing patterns freshly. The best models are trained to observe, not to assume. That's how they learn. To stay open, to adjust, to explore each input without bias. It's a kind of digital beginner's mind, a quiet curiosity. Nature reminds us how to live this way. Think of rain. It's fallen countless times, but each drop is different. Each storm carries its own sound, its own rhythm. Even the wind never moves the same way twice. The world is repeating, yes, but never boring, never truly old. Try it tomorrow. Sit with a cup of tea or coffee. Don't scroll, don't rush. Just notice the warmth of the cup, the steam on your face, the taste. Feel it not like someone who's had it 1,000 times, but like someone who's never tasted it before. That small shift opens something inside you. Where in your life are you trying this right now? Is it in your morning walk? The food you eat? The people you pass by? Share your thoughts or location in the comments. Let's learn from each other. Slowly. You don't need a new life. You need new eyes. When you cultivate a beginner's mind, everything becomes alive again. The ordinary becomes sacred. The routine becomes a quiet adventure. The same street, the same sky, the same breath. You meet them all like an old friend seen anew. And in that gentle meeting, wonder returns. Every time, celebrate tiny joys. Have you ever had a moment where everything felt heavy, and then, out of nowhere, something small lifted you? Maybe it was the smell of rain on dry earth, or the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Maybe it was just a warm drink held in both hands, or the deep breath you didn't know you needed. These moments don't fix everything, but sometimes they don't have to. Sometimes they just remind you you're still here, still alive, and that's enough. We live in a world that moves fast. So fast, in fact, that we often miss the small things, the quiet, invisible joys that are always there, waiting. But when we slow down and notice them, something shifts. The weight doesn't disappear, but the day becomes lighter. It's like the sun coming through a cloudy sky, even if just for a minute. Let's pause together for a moment. Ask yourself, what tiny thing brought you peace today? Maybe it was a quiet street after the storm passed. Maybe it was finishing your exam and stepping out into the soft evening air. Maybe it was just the way your blanket felt when you wrapped it around yourself after a long day. If you're watching this from somewhere far or near, feel free to share what lifted you. We're all searching for the same thing, small peace in the middle of everything. These tiny joys are everywhere. You just have to look, like the gentle sound of birds at dawn, or the smooth way pen ink flows on paper, like tying your shoelaces just right, or hearing your own heartbeat when the world is silent. A deep stretch after sitting too long. the first sip of water when you're thirsty. These are not loud joys, but they are real ones. Imagine walking to school or work. Your thoughts are busy. Maybe there's pressure. Maybe something didn't go the way you planned, but then you pass by a tree and its branches are dancing in the breeze. You don't know why, but for a moment you stop. And that moment becomes a pause from your thoughts. A breath. That's a tiny joy. Even during exams, when the mind is full and tired, small things can help. The way your hand fits around your pen, the cold touch of a metal desk, the relief of flipping the last page. You can choose to see those things as nothing, or you can see them as reminders you are moving forward, even when it's hard. In friendships, sometimes it's not the big plans or loud laughter that matter most. It's sitting together without speaking. It's the nod of understanding. A shared look when something funny happens. Those tiny moments are where real connection lives. They don't need to be remembered to matter. They just need to be felt. Language itself carries small joys. The way some words feel soft when spoken, like peace or slow. The rhythm of a simple sentence, or the way someone says your name in a calm voice. These aren't facts or ideas. They're feelings. And in a busy world, feelings matter more than we think. Even in the world of technology and AI, there's something beautiful about the small things. A loading bar that finishes just in time. A clean user interface that makes you feel calm. A smooth animation that feels almost human. The tiniest designs, coded with care, shape the way we feel, without ever being loud about it. Mental health is deeply linked to how we treat these moments. When we only chase big goals, big news, or big changes, we feel empty when they don't come. But when we start celebrating the small wins, the tiny joys, we begin to feel whole again. Joy becomes a choice, not a reward. It's not always easy. Sometimes life hurts. Some days feel heavy. Some hours stretch too long. But even then, even in those spaces, a tiny joy can break through. A cool pillow on a warm night. A single kind word. The memory of laughter. You don't have to force yourself to be happy. Just be open to noticing what's already there. One of the most beautiful things is that these tiny joys cost nothing. You don't have to earn them. You don't have to deserve them. They belong to everyone. No matter who you are or where you are, they show up in all places, in all seasons. Try this. Tomorrow, find just one small thing and really notice it. Not with your thoughts, but with your senses. Let it be enough for a moment. Then maybe another. And maybe slowly your day becomes softer. Not because everything is perfect, but because you remembered how to feel. We don't always need more. Sometimes we just need to see differently. The smell of fresh air, the taste of something simple, the quiet between two songs, a memory that still makes you smile. These things matter. They are not little, even if they are small. So wherever you are, whether it's a noisy city, a quiet village, a classroom, or a bus ride home, look for the joy that fits in your palm. Listen for it in the silence. Let it rise in the chest like a slow breath. And if you find it, even for a second, you've already changed something inside you. Celebrate that. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. And because sometimes the smallest joy holds the most weight. Embody quiet confidence. Have you ever walked into a room and felt calm even before a single word was spoken? There was no shouting, no spotlight, no need to prove anything. Yet someone stood there, not louder than the rest, not seeking attention, but somehow more grounded. That is what quiet confidence looks like. It's not in what you say, it's in how you exist, even when no one's watching. Maybe you've felt this before, or maybe you've wished you could. In a world that often rewards volume, speed, and competition, confidence is usually mistaken for showing off. But the deepest kind of confidence, the one that truly lasts, is silent. It doesn't need applause, it doesn't ask for permission. It simply is. Think back to your own moments of calm strength. Times when you knew you were right, but you didn't argue. or when you didn't need anyone to agree because your peace came from within. That is the kind of confidence we often forget we already have. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't chase praise. It just lives quietly beneath the surface. If you're listening now, take a second to think. Have you ever surprised yourself by how calm you stayed in a tough situation? Maybe it was during an exam when everyone else looked panicked, and you took a breath, trusted your preparation, and kept going. Or maybe during a disagreement when you choose silence over shouting. These are not moments of weakness. They are signs of quiet power. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being okay with being real, not needing to explain every step, not rushing to defend every opinion, not bending just to be liked. Sometimes, believing in yourself means allowing space for others to misunderstand you, and that's not easy, but it's freeing. We grow up being told to prove ourselves, show your work, defend your views, post your achievements. But what happens when you stop doing that? Not out of fear, but out of trust. When you stop trying to be seen and start simply being? That's where quiet confidence lives, in the moments no one claps for, in the decisions you make that no one sees. Imagine being at a gathering. There's noise, jokes, opinions flying everywhere. Some are trying hard to impress, but there you are, listening, smiling maybe, thinking clearly. You speak only when needed, and when you do, it's not to dominate, it's to contribute. Not to win, but to connect. That's real confidence. Even in nature, this idea exists. A mountain doesn't move to be noticed. A tree doesn't shout to prove it's growing. And yet, they are strong. They are steady. They last. This kind of strength doesn't need attention. It comes from knowing your roots. Quiet confidence also means being kind to yourself. When you make a mistake, it whispers, "That's okay, learn and try again." When others doubt you, it reminds you that their doubt isn't your truth. When you're alone, it says, "You are enough, even in silence." It doesn't fight with the world. It walks beside it, calmly, with steady steps. This mindset shows up in small everyday things. When you don't check your phone every 5 minutes for replies. When you say no without guilt. When you admit you don't know something, that's okay. When you help someone without needing them to thank you. These are signs of someone grounded. In relationships, too, confidence doesn't always look like being in control. Sometimes it's listening without needing to fix it, accepting without needing to change, letting people be who they are, while staying true to who you are. That takes strength. That takes trust. That takes the kind of confidence that doesn't need a stage. Even in times of doubt, you can carry quiet confidence. You might feel unsure. You might not have all the answers. But deep down, you trust that you will find your way. You might not be the loudest, but your choices speak for you. Your silence carries weight. Your presence brings calm. In language, you can see this as well. Words like steady, soft, clear, they don't shout, but they hold meaning. They create space. They invite peace. And peace is what quiet confidence is made of. Not perfection, not performance, just presence. Mental health connects here too. When we seek constant validation, our sense of self becomes fragile. But when we find peace in who we are, without needing proof, we grow stronger. We become less reactive, more mindful, more present, and slowly our life feels more like our own. Even in artificial intelligence or technology, there's something called elegance in simplicity. It's not about adding more features. It's about doing one thing well, smoothly, quietly, confidently. That's a principle that applies to us too. You don't have to do everything. Just do what matters, with care, with calm, and with quiet strength. So wherever you are, whether you're walking through a storm or resting in stillness, remember this: you don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to convince anyone of your value. Your calm is not your weakness. Your silence is not your emptiness. Inside you, there is a steady light. It doesn't flicker when ignored. It doesn't dim when unseen. It shines, quietly, always. You don't need to chase validation. Let it come, or let it pass. What matters more is the way you walk, not who's watching, the way you breathe, not what they say. Be steady like the ocean, calm on the surface, deep at the core. And know this: real strength does not need a crown, it just needs truth, and you already have that inside you. If you've ever felt this kind of quiet strength, or if you're still learning how to hold it, feel free to share your story. Wherever you are in the world, your presence matters, and your quiet confidence may be the softest, strongest gift you ever give yourself. Listen to silence. Have you ever sat in a room completely still, with no sound but your own breath, and felt like the quiet was saying something? Maybe not in words, but in a way that somehow felt louder than noise. That's the strange and beautiful power of silence. It often says the most important things, without speaking at all. We live in a world filled with sound. Notifications, conversations, background music, traffic, all of it surrounds us every day. Most of us are so used to the noise that when silence arrives, even for a moment, it feels unfamiliar. Some people even find it uncomfortable. But if you slow down and listen to that quiet, something changes. You begin to notice things. Thoughts you've been ignoring come forward. Feelings you've pushed aside ask for attention. And in that stillness, something deeper begins to speak. Have you ever had a moment where someone paused before replying to you, and in that pause you already understood their answer? Or been in a situation where no words were needed, because the silence between you and another person said it all? That's the kind of silence we're talking about. Not the empty kind, but the full kind. The kind that holds meaning, the kind that reveals truth. Think about the weather. When a storm is coming, sometimes everything becomes quiet just before it begins. The air gets still. The animals go silent. The sky darkens. That silence is not empty. It's filled with expectation, with tension, with the sense that something is about to change. And in life, we have those moments too. Those silent pauses before big changes, before realizations, before growth. In relationships, silence can be even more powerful than words. There's the kind of silence that happens when someone truly listens to you, without interrupting, without judging. It feels like respect. It feels like a presence. And then there's the silence that comes when words would only get in the way. When sitting beside someone, quietly, says more than anything you could say out loud. Even in exams or work situations, silence plays a role. The silence right before the paper is handed out. The silence of concentration when everyone is focused. These moments may feel small, but they are charged with attention. In those quiet seconds, we are fully present, fully aware. And yet, silence isn't always easy. Sometimes we run from it. We turn on music or scroll through our phones just to fill the space. Why? Maybe because silence invites us to feel, and sometimes feeling is hard. But what if silence isn't our enemy? What if it's our teacher? When you sit in silence even for just a few minutes, your mind starts to slow down. The noise of the day fades, and what rises is something much more real, your own voice, not the one that tries to impress others, the one that speaks only when everything else is quiet. That voice knows what you truly need. But we can only hear it when we make space for silence. This quiet also changes how we speak. Have you noticed how people who are calm and wise don't rush to fill every gap in a conversation? They speak slowly. They pause. They allow silence to exist between their words. That's not hesitation, it's presence. It's a deep understanding that not everything needs to be said right away. In language, too, silence plays a role. Writers often say that the space between the lines matters as much as the words themselves. Music depends on silence. Without it, notes become noise. A pause in the melody gives the next note its power. That's true in life as well. Silence gives meaning to our actions. It gives shape to our words. Mental health also connects here. Silence can be a kind of healing. It can bring clarity. When we're constantly surrounded by stimulation, we become scattered. But in silence, we came back to the center. We begin to notice our breath, our heartbeat, the feeling of the moment, and from that awareness, we can begin to understand what we need. Even in the field of AI and technology, there's a growing interest in space and stillness, in how machines learn to pause before responding, in how silence can be part of good design. It's not just about what's said or shown, it's about what's left out, what's held back. The spaces where the user has time to reflect. This teaches us something. Silence isn't absence. It's my intention. If you think about it, many important moments in life are surrounded by silence. A quiet sunrise, a long walk alone, the stillness before sleep, the hush of snow falling, the silence in a room after someone speaks a deep truth. These are not empty moments. They are rich with life. Sometimes the most meaningful things are the ones not spoken at all. The comfort of sitting quietly with someone you care about. The peace of being alone and not feeling lonely. The quiet strength of a person who doesn't need to raise their voice to be heard. This is where true presence lives. Not in doing more, but in being still. So here's something you can try, maybe right after this video ends. Just sit quietly for 1 minute. Don't try to meditate. Don't try to empty your mind. Just listen. Listen to the silence around you. Listen to the silence inside you. What do you hear? It might take a few tries. It might feel strange at first, but over time, silence becomes something you look forward to. A friend, a place where your real self waits patiently, quietly, for you to return. Wherever you are right now, if you've had a moment where silence said more than words, maybe after an argument or during a goodbye or just watching the stars, feel free to share it. These moments, though quiet, help us remember something we often forget. The deepest truths don't shout, they whisper. And in that whisper, we often find exactly what we need. So the next time life gets noisy, when opinions fly, when stress rises, when everything feels fast, remember that you can return to silence, not to escape the world, but to see it more clearly, not to avoid people, but to connect more deeply, not to be empty, but to be full of the things that really matter. Listen to silence. It might be the first time you truly hear yourself. Detach from outcome. Have you ever tried so hard to make something perfect, only to feel more stressed the closer you got to the end? Maybe it was an exam, or a job interview, or a personal goal you really cared about. You gave it everything. You prepared, planned, pushed. But once it was out of your hands, the waiting began. And the more you thought about the outcome, the more you started to worry. What if it doesn't go the way I hoped? What if I failed? What if I'm not enough? That space between effort and result can be one of the hardest to sit with, but it also holds one of the deepest lessons. We're often told to give our best, and that's true. But what we're not often told is this. Once you've done your best, let go. Let the result unfold. Let life respond in its own way. This is what it means to detach from the outcome. It's not about giving up. It's not about being careless. It's about caring deeply while you act, but not carrying the weight of things you can't control afterward. Let's take something simple. Imagine you're planting a seed. You water it, you give it sunlight, you take care of the soil, you do everything you can. But whether that seed grows, how fast it grows, and what shape it takes, that's not up to you. All you can do is give it your best effort. The rest belongs to nature, to time, to the process itself. This might feel strange. We're used to believing that we can control everything if we just try hard enough. Study more, and you'll pass. Train harder, and you'll win. Say the right words, and someone will like you. But the truth is, we don't control the full picture. Life has its own timing. People have their own choices. And outcomes often surprise us in ways we didn't expect. There's a quiet strength in accepting this, in working with care, and then stepping back. It doesn't make your effort less meaningful, it makes it more peaceful. Instead of tying your worth to the result, you begin to value the process. Instead of judging yourself by what happens next, you start to trust the act of showing up with presence. Think about the weather. A farmer might do everything right. Plant at the right time, use the best tools, care for the land. But if a storm comes or the sun doesn't shine, the harvest might still be less than expected. Does that mean the farmer failed? No. It means life is bigger than our plans, and the wisest ones learn to work with the sky, not against it. In exams, this shows up too. You study hard. You walk into the room with all your preparation. But once the paper's handed out, worrying about the result doesn't help. What helps is being present, trusting your preparation, letting go of what you can't change at the moment, and once the exam is over, what's done is done. Obsessing over the outcome only adds stress, but trusting that you gave your best, that brings peace. Relationships can teach this as well. You might care about someone. You show up with honesty. You listen. You try to build trust. But how they respond, how the relationship unfolds, isn't fully in your control. You can offer your heart, but you can't force theirs to open. You can be kind, but you can't predict their path. Detachment here means loving fully, but without holding on too tightly. It's knowing that connection cannot be forced, only offered. Even in sports or creative work, this lesson appears. An athlete trains for years. A painter spends weeks on a canvas, but once the moment comes, a race, an exhibition, there's a surrender, a quiet letting go. You've done all you can. Now the result will be what it is. Some of the greatest performers speak of this calm. They say the real magic comes when they stop trying to control the outcome and simply enter the moment. This kind of detachment also touches mental health. When we chase perfection or cling too tightly to how things should be, we create stress. Anxiety often grows from the gap between effort and expectation. But when we detach from the need to control the future, we find a new kind of freedom. We still care. We still try. But we stop tying our peace to results. Instead, we return to now, to what we can actually do right here. Even technology reflects this in small ways. In programming, you can write the cleanest code, but the system might still respond in unexpected ways. Developers learn to test, fix, adjust, but they also learn that not everything can be predicted. There's a kind of patience that grows from this, a willingness to keep improving without demanding total control. The paradox is simple. When you let go of needing a certain result, your effort becomes lighter, more focused, less clouded by fear. You do better, not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer afraid of what happens next. Detachment isn't cold, it's clear. It says, I will do my best, and whatever comes, I will meet it with presence. So maybe this is a new way to live. Imagine waking up each day and showing up fully, not to prove something, not to win something, but because it's meaningful to give your best. And then imagine releasing the grip, breathing deeply, trusting that what's meant to come will come. Wherever you are, whether you're waiting for results or chasing a goal or trying to make sense of something that didn't go as planned, take a moment. Ask yourself, have I done my best? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to let go, to trust the process, to know that your worth isn't measured by outcomes, but by the honesty of your effort. Feel free to share a time when you gave your all and then had to wait. What helped you stay calm? How did it feel to let go? These moments connect us. They remind us that we're not alone in the uncertainty. We're all learning how to give without clinging, how to care without gripping, how to act fully, and then rest in the unknown. Detach from outcome. Do your best, and let life surprise you. Honor inner wisdom. Have you ever had a moment when something felt off, but you couldn't explain why? Maybe everything looked fine on the outside. The numbers added up. The words made sense. The plan seemed solid. And yet, somewhere deep inside, something whispered, no. Something in your gut told you to pause, to walk away, or to take a different path. And maybe later, days, weeks, even years, you realize that quiet feeling was right all along. It's strange, isn't it? How we can know something without knowing how we know it. This is the quiet mystery of inner wisdom. It doesn't always speak in words. It doesn't always follow logic. But it has a calm weight to it. It lives beneath the noise, beneath the opinions, beneath the data and the doubts. It makes sense. A pull. A small voice that says, "This is the way," or "Be careful here," or even "Trust yourself." Have you ever trusted that voice? And what happened when you did or didn't? Feel free to share where you're watching from and a moment when your gut guided you, even when it didn't make sense. We live in a world that values thinking. We're taught to research, compare, plan, analyze. And these are good things. They help us move forward. They help us grow. But there's another kind of knowing that can't always be measured. It's slower, quieter, but just as real, sometimes more real. Let's take a small example. Imagine you're offered a new job. On paper, it looks perfect. Good pay, clear path, friendly people. But when you sit with it, something doesn't feel right. You can't explain it. There's no problem you can point to. But your body doesn't relax. Your chest feels tight. Something in you hesitates. That's inner wisdom speaking. It doesn't mean you say no, but it means you listen. You pause. You dig deeper. Because sometimes what your heart senses before your mind can explain is the very thing that matters most. It happens in relationships too. Maybe you meet someone and everything seems okay, but deep down you feel a strange discomfort. Or maybe it's the opposite. You meet someone and instantly feel safe, seen, calm. You don't know why. You just do. And later you learn that your instinct was right, that your body knew before your brain did, even with simple things like crossing a street. You check both ways. It looks clear, but something tells you to wait. A second later, a car you didn't see rushes by. How did you know? You didn't, but something in you was paying attention, something deeper. This is not about fear. Inner wisdom isn't loud like panic. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It's quiet, like water moving underground. And it speaks clearest when we are still. That's why silence matters. That's why slowing down helps. Because when your mind is racing, it's easy to miss what your deeper self is trying to say. In school or during exams, this shows up too. You might be choosing between two answers. One looks more logical, but the other one feels more right. Sometimes your first instinct is correct, not because you guessed, but because your mind has been collecting tiny signals all along. Things you noticed, things you felt, patterns you didn't realize were forming. Your body, your memory, your heart, they remember more than you think. Even the weather teaches this. Animals often know when a storm is coming, before the wind shifts, before the clouds gather. They feel it. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from reading charts. It comes from paying attention, from being in tune with what's happening around you and within you. In everyday life, this can guide the small choices that make big differences. When to speak and when to stay silent. When to take a risk and when to wait. When to say yes and when to walk away. Inner wisdom won't always give you reasons, but it will give you direction. And the more you learn to trust it, the stronger it becomes. Sometimes the world will disagree with your instinct. People might tell you you're being silly, dramatic, or emotional. They might not understand what you're sensing. And that's okay. Your path doesn't have to make sense to others, only to you. Trusting your inner wisdom is not about ignoring advice. It's about knowing which advice lines up with your truth. This also connects to bigger questions: belief, identity, purpose. There are times when no book or expert can give you the full answer. Only you can feel what's real for you. Only you can know where your soul feels safe. And in these moments, honoring your gut becomes an act of courage. You're not rejecting logic. You're making space for a deeper kind of logic, the kind that comes from lived experience, from patterns you can't name but still feel. Even artificial intelligence, tools like this one, can provide information, support, perspective. But there's one thing it can't replace: your inner voice. That quiet compass inside you that points, not always to the easiest way, but to the truest. Technology can assist, but it cannot feel. It cannot know what only you can know. And that's the heart of this paradox. The deepest wisdom doesn't shout, it waits. It doesn't argue, it invites. And when you slow down enough to hear it, you begin to realize that clarity doesn't always come from outside. It often rises from within. So maybe the next time you're unsure, you can try this. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, not what should I do, but what feels right. Not what do others expect, but what brings peace to my body, calm to my breath. You might not get a loud answer, but if you listen closely, you'll feel the shape of the truth, like a soft weight in your chest, like a door gently opening. You don't need to have all the answers right away. Life unfolds one moment at a time, but if you honor that quiet sense inside you, the one that's been with you through every step, you'll find your way. Have you ever followed your gut, even when it didn't make sense? What did it lead you to? Feel free to share below. Your story might help someone else trust their own voice too. Honor inner wisdom. It may not speak in facts or formulas, but it knows things your mind hasn't caught up to yet. And when you walk with it, even the uncertain path feels more grounded, more real, more yours. Embrace constructive boredom. Have you ever stared at the ceiling with nothing to do and felt a strange discomfort rise? That quiet itch, that pull to reach for your phone, open a screen, scroll, tap, watch something, do anything. It's a familiar moment. We've all felt it, the need to fill empty time, to escape the stillness. But what if those empty moments were not a problem? What if they were a gift? It may sound odd, but boredom can be one of the most powerful spaces in your day. Not the stressful kind that comes from waiting in a long line or sitting through something you dislike, but the quiet kind. The kind that appears when the noise fades, when the distractions go silent, when there is nothing left to grab your attention but yourself. That's when something begins to happen, not on the outside, but deep inside. Have you ever been lying on your bed or sitting near a window, and out of nowhere, a new idea appears? A memory you forgot, a solution you weren't looking for, a feeling you hadn't noticed before. It comes not in a rush, but gently, like mist rising off a lake in the early morning. That's the quiet power of boredom. Feel free to share where you're listening from, and maybe share this. What's the most surprising thought or idea that ever came to you in a quiet moment? We live in a time where being bored is almost seen as failure. We fill our days with tasks, updates, alerts, and endless entertainment. There's always something to click, always something to watch. And slowly, without even noticing, we forget how to be still, how to sit in silence, how to let time pass without filling it. But when we constantly feed the mind with input, we leave no space for our own thoughts to rise. It's like talking to someone who never stops speaking. You don't get the chance to say anything yourself. In the same way, your inner world needs silence to speak. It needs stillness to create. And boredom, real boredom, is that stillness. Think of a time when you were on a long walk with no music, or lying in the grass watching clouds pass, or sitting through a quiet bus ride, just watching the world. Maybe it felt slow, maybe it felt empty. But those are the moments when imagination quietly stirs. When your brain isn't reacting to new input, it's making something of its own. A simple example: children often say they're bored, but when left alone for a little while, something magical happens. They build stories with rocks, invent games, ask strange questions. The mind, left to itself, doesn't stay empty for long. It begins to explore. That same energy exists in you, no matter your age, no matter how busy your life is. Even during exams, when you take a break and stare into space, you may feel bored. But the brain keeps working. In the background, it connects ideas. It untangles confusion. It lets your thoughts breathe. Some of the best answers appear not while studying, but while resting. That's not failure. That's your mind doing quiet work. Weather teaches this too. The sky isn't always bright and dramatic. Some days it's just soft and gray, calm, still. And those quiet days are just as important. They water the ground. They prepare the space for new things to grow. So what happens when you stop running from boredom and begin to sit with it? At first, maybe nothing. Maybe it feels uncomfortable, restless, like you should be doing something. But if you stay a little longer, something inside shifts. Your breath slows, your eyes soften, and ideas like small birds begin to land gently in your mind, one at a time. Some of the world's most creative people, artists, inventors, thinkers, have said their best ideas came during boring walks, long showers, or quiet moments staring into space. They weren't trying to create, they were just being. And in that space, the mind found its own rhythm. This connects to bigger things too, like belief, language, even technology. In a world where artificial intelligence can finish our sentences, suggest our music, even write our stories, the one thing it can't do is sit quietly with our thoughts. It can offer results, but I can't experience wonder. It can't dream. In silence. That's something only you can do. Even mental health is touched by this. When we avoid boredom constantly, we may not realize how full we're becoming inside. Full of unspoken feelings, unfinished thoughts, unprocessed emotions. And then one day, it all feels like too much. But if we learn to sit with boredom, we give ourselves time to clear space, to notice what's building inside us, to heal before things overflow. Boredom also teaches patience. In a world that moves fast, waiting can feel like a waste. But not everything blooms quickly. Some answers need time, some changes need quiet. By embracing boredom, you begin to trust time again. You begin to feel that not everything needs to be fast to be meaningful. Even in relationships, boredom can be a good thing. Not every moment needs to be exciting. Sitting quietly with someone, doing nothing, can build a deeper bond than constant entertainment ever could. It shows that you are comfortable not just doing things together, but simply being together. So maybe the next time boredom visits, you don't rush to fix it. You don't run to a screen. You don't try to fill the space. Instead, you say, "Hello." You take a deep breath. You look around. You listen, not to anything outside, but to what begins to rise inside. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe it's just peace. The world is always asking for your attention. But boredom asks for your presence. It invites you back to yourself, to the quiet garden of your mind, where strange ideas grow, where truth waits patiently, where creativity wakes up slowly, like sunlight on the floor. What's the most peaceful moment of boredom you've had lately? And what did you find there? You can share if you like. Your words might help someone else see the gift in stillness too. Boredom isn't the enemy, it's a doorway. A soft pause between the noise, and if you walk through it, you might just find something beautiful waiting on the other side. Share your vulnerability. Have you ever smiled when you felt like crying, just to make someone else comfortable? Or stayed quiet about your feelings, even when they were heavy, just to seem strong? Most of us have. We've learned to hide the soft parts of ourselves, not because we want to, but because somewhere along the way, we thought that being open was risky, that being honest would make us look weak. But what if it's the other way around? What if sharing what's real is actually the strongest thing we can do? If you're listening from somewhere quiet, or maybe lying down trying to rest, think back to a time when someone shared something honest with you. Something simple, a fear, a mistake, a regret, maybe a moment when they admitted they didn't have it all together. Did it make you judge them, or did it make you feel closer to them? Realness has a strange kind of power. It softens the space between people. It makes us feel safe because we realize we're not alone. Let me know where you're listening from. And if you're comfortable, share a time when someone's honesty made you feel seen, even a small one. Vulnerability is one of those quiet things we don't often talk about, but we feel it deeply. It shows up in moments we don't expect, like the pause before you answer a tough question, the hesitation in your voice when you talk about your dreams, the way your heart beats faster before telling someone how much they matter to you. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's very real. Think about a time in school, maybe during a tough exam. You didn't understand the question, but you were afraid to raise your hand. Everyone else looked like they understood. But then, someone did raise their hand and asked the exact thing you were confused about. You probably felt relieved. That's vulnerability in action. One person's honesty made the room safer for everyone else. In friendships too, the moments that bring us closest are often not the exciting ones, but the honest ones. When someone says, "I'm going through something," or "I don't know what to do," or even just, "I'm scared." These aren't signs of weakness. These are doorways, openings, and when we walk through them together, trust begins to grow. It's strange, isn't it? We all want to be understood, yet we're afraid to be seen. We want deep connection, but we hide the very parts that would create it. We cover up what hurts and wonder why no one truly knows us. But maybe the truth is, connection requires risk. Not a big dramatic risk, but small emotional risks, like saying, "I made a mistake," or "I need help," or simply, "I don't have the answer." Even in quiet relationships, between a father and son, or two old friends who don't talk much, there's power in moments of soft honesty. It doesn't have to be a long talk. Sometimes just a few words can open years of silence. There's also a strange paradox here. The more we try to appear strong by hiding our struggles, the more isolated we feel. But the moment we admit, even softly, that we're not okay, we often find others saying, "Me too." At that moment, the weight gets lighter, the silence breaks, something begins to heal. This idea also reaches into bigger places, like belief systems. Some people believe they need to have it all figured out before they speak. But the truth is, no one has all the answers. And admitting that, saying, "I'm still learning," makes room for growth, for new ideas, for better understanding. Even language reflects this. The words we use to talk about emotion are often soft. We say things like opening up, letting in, being real. None of them are harsh. All of them ask for presence. Vulnerability lives in these words, and it reminds us that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy. In mental health, the role of honesty is huge. So many people carry pain quietly, not because they want to, but because they believe no one would understand. And that belief becomes a wall. But when someone opens up even a little, it invites others to do the same. That's how healing begins. Not with fixing everything, but saying, "This is how I feel." Even in technology, we see a difference. Artificial intelligence can respond. It can speak and solve and process, but I can't feel it. It can't share its fear, or admit uncertainty, or pause before saying, "I'm not sure." That's something only a real human can do. Vulnerability reminds us of what makes us human, not in our ability to be perfect, but in our willingness to be honest. Weather can teach this too. Some days are clear, others are stormy, but even stormy skies are honest. They show what's happening, they release what's been held too long. In the same way, our inner world needs that release too. We can't carry everything inside and expect to feel light. Think about someone you trust. Maybe they weren't the most impressive or powerful people. Maybe they didn't always say the right thing. But they were real. They listened. They admitted their own struggles. And because of that, you felt safe. That's the kind of connection vulnerability builds, one quiet truth at a time. So, what stops us from sharing? Often it's fear. Fear of being judged, or misunderstood, or rejected. But fear shrinks in light. And vulnerability is that light. When you speak your truth, not to impress, not to win, but simply to connect, you shift the space around you. You make room for deeper bonds. You show others it's okay to be human. Some people will not understand. That's okay. Not everyone is ready to hold space for honesty, but the ones who are, the ones who matter, they'll listen, and they'll share in return, and suddenly you won't feel so alone. You don't need to share everything, not all at once. Vulnerability isn't about exposing yourself to pain. It's about offering small windows into who you really are, bit by bit, word by word, and watching how those windows become bridges. So maybe, next time someone asks how you're doing, you pause. You check in with yourself, and maybe you say something simple, but true, like, "It's been a bit rough," or "I'm trying my best," or even, "I could use a bit of support." And just like that, a deeper kind of connection begins. We spend so much of life trying to seem fine. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is, "I'm not fine, but I'm here." That small act of truth can echo in someone else's heart for a long time. Have you ever shared something real and been surprised by how someone responded? Feel free to share in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel brave enough to do the same. In the end, we all carry things. Some heavy, some light. But we don't have to carry them alone. Vulnerability is how we pass the weight to each other. Gently, with care. It's how we say, without saying it, "I trust you with my truth." And that is one of the most human things we can do. Anchor in values. Imagine you're standing at a crossroads, each path offering something different. One path promises instant pleasure, the other asks for patience, but leads to something deeper. Now, picture yourself choosing the first path, driven by how you feel in that exact moment. How often do we make decisions like this, based purely on our emotions at the time? It's easy to get swept away by the waves of feelings, but have you ever noticed how fleeting those emotions can be? And how often, once the rush fades, we question our choices? We've all been there. The sudden urge to buy something just because it feels right in that moment. The snap decision to say yes to something we know isn't aligned with our deeper goals. We're human. It's natural to act on impulse. But here's the thing. When we let fleeting emotions drive our decisions, we lose sight of what really matters. What if instead we could anchor ourselves in something steadier? Something that doesn't shift with the next wave of feeling or circumstance. This is where values come in. Your values are the steady compass that can guide you through life's unpredictable terrain. They're like the roots of a tree, deep and firm, keeping you grounded no matter how strong the winds may blow. But here's the catch. We often forget to check in with those values, and instead, we let temporary emotions dictate our choices. It's like building a house on sand instead of solid rock. Think about the weather for a moment. Some days are bright and sunny, and we feel full of energy, ready to take on the world. Other days the sky is dark, the rain is falling, and we feel drained or uncertain. The weather, like our emotions, can change at any time. So if you lived your life based on the weather, what would happen? One day you'd be motivated, the next you might be stuck in bed, unsure of what to do. But when you anchor in your values, it's like having a foundation that doesn't care about the forecast. It's stable, steady, and always there to support you, no matter the weather inside or outside. Consider a moment from your own life when you made a decision that didn't align with your values. Maybe you said yes to something, even though you knew it would take you off course. Perhaps you felt pressure from others, or just gave in to a momentary impulse. And in the aftermath, you wondered, why did I do that? That's the tricky thing about living based on emotions. They can lead us to act in ways that don't reflect who we truly are or what we truly want. Emotions are important, yes, but they don't always tell the whole story. Now think about times when you made a choice that aligned with your core beliefs. Maybe you stuck to your word, even when it was tough. Maybe you resisted an immediate temptation because you remembered what was more important in the long run. Maybe you took a step back in a tough situation, trusted your instincts, and chose to act with kindness, even when your feelings might have pushed you in another direction. These decisions, even though they may not have been easy, gave you a sense of peace afterward. They felt right, because they were rooted in something deeper than the momentary emotion. Values aren't just about knowing what you believe in. They're about living by those beliefs every day, even when it's hard. They shape how we approach relationships, work, and the choices we make about our future. When we get off track, it's often because we've let a fleeting emotion push us away from our anchor. But when we reconnect to our values, it's like finding solid ground again. This can be especially powerful when it comes to personal growth. We all have dreams, aspirations, and goals. But sometimes, the road to achieving them isn't easy. It's tempting to quit when things get tough. It's easy to follow the crowd, or to do what seems easiest at the moment. But when you anchor yourself in your values, you remember why you started. You remember what matters most, and that keeps you moving forward, even on the days when the path is unclear. The language we use also reflects this idea of anchoring in values. When you speak from a place of your deepest beliefs, your words carry weight. People listen because there's honesty and authenticity in your voice. In contrast, when we speak from a place of momentary feeling, say anger or frustration, our words can come out sharp or unclear. But when we pause, ground ourselves in our values, and then speak, the message becomes clearer. It's not about being perfect. It's about being true to what you believe, even when your emotions might try to lead you elsewhere. Mental health is another area where anchoring in values can make a big difference. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by stress, anxiety, or self-doubt. These emotions can cloud our judgment, making it hard to see what really matters. But when we return to our core values, we remember who we are, and we start to understand that we are more than our feelings. We can still make thoughtful decisions, even in difficult circumstances. Our values help us navigate through the fog, giving us direction when we feel lost. And this doesn't just apply to us as individuals. In communities, families, and even larger groups, values can be the glue that holds people together. When everyone shares similar values, it becomes easier to work toward common goals. And when individuals struggle, those values remind them of the bigger picture, of the purpose behind what they're doing. It's what keeps people going, even when things aren't perfect. In the world of technology and artificial intelligence, we see a similar theme. Machines are powerful, they can learn, adapt, and make decisions. But they don't have values. They don't have the deep internal compass that we do. They process data and follow algorithms, but they don't feel. They don't consider the long-term impact of their actions. That's something only humans can do. And it's what makes our choices so meaningful. Have you ever stopped to think about what values guide your life? Maybe you've never really reflected on it. Or maybe you've never thought about how they affect your day-to-day decisions. But when you take the time to dig deep, to truly explore what matters to you, it can be life-changing. It's not about what others expect of you, or what the world says you should do. It's about finding the quiet, steady voice inside that says, "This is what's important to me," and then letting that voice guide your choices. So, when faced with decisions in the future, try to pause. Ask yourself, what would my values say about this choice? It doesn't mean your emotions won't still play a role. But it does mean you'll have a stronger foundation, one that's built on something lasting. And in the end, the choices you make from this place of grounding will feel truer, clearer, and more aligned with who you really are. Take a moment now, if you can, to reflect on your own values. What are the things that really matter to you? Share them in the comments below if you feel like it. Let's connect and learn from each other's experiences. Your values might be different from mine, but that's the beauty of it. Each of us has something unique to offer. When we honor what's deep within us, we start to live from a place of authenticity. And that's a life worth living. Practice daily gratitude. Have you ever noticed how, on some days, even the smallest things can bring a smile to your face? A warm cup of tea, a gentle breeze, or a kind word from a friend? Yet, on other days, those same things go unnoticed, overshadowed by stress or worry. It's intriguing how our perception can shift so dramatically. What if there were a simple practice that could help us consistently notice and appreciate these moments, leading to a more joyful and fulfilling life? Consider this: taking a few minutes each day to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for can have a profound impact on your well-being. This simple habit can rewire your brain, making it more attuned to the positive aspects of life. Over time, this shift in focus can lead to increased happiness and resilience. Imagine starting your day by acknowledging the comfort of your bed, the aroma of your morning beverage, or the support of a loved one. These reflections don't have to be grand. Even the smallest acknowledgments can set a positive tone for the day. By consistently practicing gratitude, you're training your brain to recognize and appreciate the good, even amidst challenges. This practice isn't just about feeling good in the moment. Research indicates that regular expressions of gratitude can lead to lasting changes in the brain. Over time, individuals who engage in daily gratitude practices report increased optimism, better sleep, and improved relationships. Let's delve into a relatable scenario. Think about a time when you faced a challenging situation, perhaps a stressful day at work or a disagreement with a friend. In the midst of that, did you find solace in a kind gesture, a moment of laughter, or a peaceful walk? By focusing on these positive elements, even during tough times, you can shift your perspective and find balance. This approach aligns with the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and change. By regularly focusing on positive experiences, you're strengthening neural pathways associated with happiness and contentment. Moreover, practicing gratitude can enhance your relationships. Expressing appreciation to others fosters trust and deepens connections. Whether it's thanking a colleague for their support or acknowledging a friend's kindness, these small acts can build stronger bonds. Incorporating gratitude into your daily routine doesn't require significant time or effort. You might choose to write in a journal each evening, noting 3 things you're thankful for. Alternatively, you could share these reflections with a friend or family member, creating a shared practice that strengthens your relationship. Over time, this habit can become a natural part of your day, offering a consistent source of positivity. Even on days when challenges arise, your practice of gratitude can provide a foundation of resilience and hope. As we explore the impact of gratitude, it's fascinating to consider its broader implications. In the realm of mental health, for instance, gratitude practices have been linked to reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety. By focusing on positive aspects of life, individuals can shift their attention away from negative thought patterns, promoting emotional well-being. In the context of technology and artificial intelligence, the human capacity for gratitude highlights the unique aspects of our emotional experiences. While machines can process information and perform tasks, they lack the ability to feel appreciation or form meaningful connections. This distinction underscores the importance of nurturing our emotional intelligence and interpersonal relationships. Reflecting on your own experiences, have you noticed moments when practicing gratitude made a difference in your day? Perhaps recalling a kind gesture lifted your spirits, or acknowledging a personal achievement boosted your confidence. By sharing these experiences, we can inspire and support one another in cultivating gratitude. In conclusion, integrating a daily gratitude practice into your life can lead to profound benefits. By consistently acknowledging the positive aspects of your experiences, you're fostering a mindset of appreciation and resilience. This simple habit can enhance your well-being, strengthen your relationships, and provide a foundation for navigating life's challenges with grace. As you embark on this journey, remember that every moment of gratitude contributes to a more joyful and fulfilling life. Challenge your comfort. Imagine standing at the edge of a calm lake. The water is smooth, the air is warm, and everything feels safe. Yet just beyond, The surface shimmers with the promise of something unknown below. You could stay on soft sand forever, or you could step in, feel the cool water, and discover what lies beneath. That moment at the edge is where growth begins. We all love comfort. Routines, familiar faces, safe places, they soothe us. But life rarely grows inside our comfort zone. It grows at the boundary where safety meets uncertainty. That edge can feel mysterious, even a little scary. Yet it's there that we learn what we're truly capable of. Think back to the first time you tried something new. Maybe you rode a bike, swam in deep water, or spoke up in class. At first your heart raced. You worried you might fail. But then you did it anyway, and in that stretch, just beyond what felt safe, you discovered strength you didn't know you had. Exams work the same way. You study until the material feels familiar. Then, when the test arrives, you face questions you've never seen. That moment can feel nerve-wracking, but it's also the moment you prove to yourself that your preparation meets the unknown. Each question you answer is a step beyond what felt safe in your notes. Relationships, too, grow at the edge of comfort. You might share a thought you've kept to yourself, or reach out when you usually stay silent. That small stretch can deepen trust. It can open new paths of understanding. If you never step beyond polite small talk, you miss the chance to connect at a real level. Even the weather shows this paradox. A gentle breeze is nice, but sometimes a gust pushes you, makes you steady your feet, feel alive. A sudden storm can be unsettling, yet afterward the air feels cleaner, the sky clearer. Moments of challenge clear away what's stagnant. When we challenge our comfort, we learn. We grow. We expand. But that doesn't mean recklessly throwing ourselves into danger. It means choosing small steps beyond what feels safe. A short swim beyond the shoreline. A new question in class. A small truth spoken to a friend. Each step is a gentle push at the boundary. Belief systems also evolve at these edges. We hold ideas that feel secure, beliefs taught to us or formed long ago. Then we encounter new perspectives. At first we may resist, but if we lean in, ask questions, listen, our understanding deepens. We keep what remains true and let go of what no longer fits. That stretch shapes wiser, more open beliefs. Language shows this too. We use familiar words. Then we learn a new word or phrase that feels strange at first. We practice it. Each time we speak it, our mind stretches. Our view of what's expressible grows. We become more able to share subtle thoughts and feelings. Mental health thrives at this edge. Therapy asks us to face feelings we've avoided. Meditation invites us to sit with thoughts we usually push away. The quiet discomfort of these practices leads to insight and healing. It's in that gentle challenge, staying with discomfort long enough, that change happens. Artificial intelligence, in its own way, learns at the edge of comfort. Models are trained on data they know, then tested on new data they haven't seen. The model's growth comes when it faces unfamiliar examples. It adapts. It becomes more flexible, just like us. So, how do you find your edge? Notice where you feel a small hesitation. That might be your boundary. It could be an idea you fear, questioning, a skill you've wanted to try but haven't, a conversation you avoid. Start there. Take one small step. It might feel awkward. Good. That means you're stretching. Maybe tomorrow you speak up once when you'd usually stay silent. Or try a new route home. Or read about a topic you know nothing about. These tiny edges become the places where you grow stronger, wiser, braver. I'd love to hear from you. Where have you stepped beyond your comfort zone recently? How did it feel? Share your experience and location in the comments. Your small step might inspire someone else to find their own edge. Remember, comfort is not the enemy. It's a place of rest. But growth lives at the edge, where comfort meets curiosity, where safety meets discovery. Each step you take beyond that line is a step toward a larger, richer life. So lean in, feel the cool water, embrace the unknown. That's where you truly begin. Observe your thoughts. Have you ever watched clouds drift across the sky and felt a quiet sense of ease, simply noticing their shapes change without trying to hold on to any one of them? Now imagine doing the same with your thoughts. Thoughts rise, shift, and fade, just like clouds, and none of them are permanent truths. By learning to observe ideas as they pass, you can find a calm space beneath the noise of your mind. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a gentle sky. A soft breeze carries wisps of cloud across a pale blue canvas. You notice their shapes. Maybe one looks like a bird, another like a distant mountain. Then you watch as they shift, merging, dissolving, moving on. You don't push them. You don't chase them. You just observe. What if your thoughts could be treated the same way? Every day, your mind offers an endless parade of ideas, judgments, memories, and plans. Some are helpful, a reminder to pay a bill, a memory that makes you smile, a plan for tomorrow's breakfast. Others can be harsh, worries about the future, doubts about yourself, regrets from the past. If you cling to any one thought, it can feel heavy. It can shape your mood, your choices, even your sense of who you are. But if you learn to watch each thought as it arises, and then let it drift away, you create space. Space for clarity. Space for peace. Imagine you're studying for an exam. Your mind drifts to worry. What if I fail? You feel a knot in your stomach, but then you pause. You notice the thought as you would notice a cloud. Ah, there's that worry again. You let it pass. You return your attention to the question in front of you. The worry may return, and that's okay. You notice it again and again, like watching cloud after cloud move across the sky. Each time, you don't have to fight it. You just observe, and the cloud drifts on. In relationships, this practice can be just as powerful. Suppose you send a message and don't get an immediate reply. A thought appears, "They're ignoring me." You feel a sting. But if you observe that thought, see it as a passing idea, you may notice another thought arise. Maybe they're busy. You feel your tension ease. You haven't changed the other person's actions. You've only changed your relationship to your own thoughts. You create calm in the space between stimulus and reaction. Even the weather teaches this lesson. On a windy day, you might watch leaves swirl in patterns you can't control. You can't stop the wind. You can't force the leaves to rest, but you can watch, you can notice the dance. In the same way, you can't stop thoughts from arising, but you can learn to observe them without getting swept away. There's a deeper theme here about belief. We often treat our thoughts as facts. I'm not good enough. This will never work. They must think badly of me. But these are just passing clouds, ideas that float through the mind. If you hold on to them, they can feel real and solid. But when you watch them come and go, you begin to see that thoughts are not permanent truths. They're events in the mind, not definitions of who you are. Language shapes this as well. Notice the difference between saying, "I am anxious," and "I notice the thought that I am anxious." The first makes anxiety into a fixed identity. The second creates a gentle distance. It becomes something you observe, not something that owns you. That shift in language opens the door to calm. Mental health benefits greatly from this practice. Anxiety and rumination thrive when we cling to thoughts. But when we learn to observe, when we watch the clouds drift, we create a resting place in our awareness, a place where thoughts can pass without sticking. In that space, stress loosens its grip. You remember you are not your thoughts. You are the sky in which they move. Even artificial intelligence, with all its complexity, uses a form of observation. Models track patterns in data. They note which signals fade and which persist. They don't cling to any single data point. They learn from the flow. In a way, your mind can learn the same method, tracking the flow of thoughts without clinging, learning from the patterns without being defined by any one idea. Try this simple exercise tonight. Find a quiet spot, close your eyes, breathe naturally. Notice whatever thought arises first. Label it gently. Thinking. Then let it pass. Notice the next. Label it planning, or worrying, or remembering. Let it pass too. Continue for a few minutes. Don't judge any thought, as good or bad. Just observe. You'll likely notice a sense of space opening up, a calm clarity that wasn't there when you were caught in the content of your mind. Have you ever tried watching your thoughts like this? Maybe you felt a moment of peace. Maybe you noticed how quickly ideas shift when you don't cling to them. Share your experience in the comments. Let us know where you are and what you noticed when you simply became the observer. Over time, this practice becomes a way of life. You begin to see not only your thoughts, but your emotions, your sensations, even your urges, all as passing events in awareness. You realize there is a stable presence beneath it all, a clear sky that nothing can truly darken. And in that realization, you find a freedom that no amount of thinking alone can give. So tonight, as you rest, remember, your thoughts are like clouds. They come, they go. None of them lasts forever. And beneath them all, you are the sky, steady, open, vast, and calm. Observation is your invitation to rest in that space. Watch the clouds, breathe, and know that peace is always available when you simply observe your thoughts and let them pass. Balance, effort, ease. What if working harder doesn't always lead to better results? What if the key to progress isn't constant action, but knowing when to pause? There's something quietly powerful about finding a rhythm, not just in music, but in life. A pattern, a wave, like the tide coming in, then rolling out again, a breath in, a breath out. This simple rhythm is everywhere, day and night, work and rest, motion and stillness. But when we get busy chasing goals or trying to do everything right, we often forget the importance of the pause, the rest, the ease. We try to stay in the effort mode all the time, and that's where imbalance begins to grow. Have you ever studied hard all night for an exam, only to find your brain foggy the next morning? Or kept pushing yourself at the gym without taking breaks, only to end up exhausted or even injured? Maybe you've worked long hours on a task, thinking more time means more success, but noticed your focus dropping and your energy fading. These are signs of imbalance, moments when effort has taken over and ease has been forgotten. Let's bring it closer to home. Think of something as ordinary as watering a plant. If you forget to water it, it wilts. But if you overwater it, it dies too. The plant thrives in balance, not too much, not too little. The same is true for your own well-being. You thrive not just in effort, but in the dance between effort and rest. You can test this idea for yourself. Try focusing deeply for 20 minutes. Really put your energy into something. Then stop. Take a 5-minute break. Stretch. Breathe. Close your eyes. Then return to your task. You'll often find that those few minutes of ease actually help. You work better, think more clearly, and feel less tired. But many people don't trust this idea at first. We're often taught to push, to grind, to hustle. Rest can feel lazy, like we're not doing enough. But here's the paradox. True strength comes from knowing when not to force things. Real focus needs rest. Real progress needs recovery. Think about professional athletes. They train hard, but they also rest on purpose. Their rest days are just as planned and important as their workout days, not because they're weak, but because their bodies grow stronger during recovery. The effort builds the potential. The rest unlocks it. Even machines follow this rule. A car engine, if run constantly without cooling, will overheat. A computer, if never shut down or restarted, begins to slow or glitch. Your body and mind are more complex than any machine, but the principle remains. Constant action without pause leads to breakdown. Pause leads to clarity. So what does this rhythm look like in everyday life? It can be as small as closing your eyes for a moment between meetings. It can be stepping outside to feel the wind on your skin before starting your next task. It might be finishing your work by 6 p.m., so your evening can belong to silence, books, or stillness. The ease doesn't have to be dramatic. Even a small pause can reset your rhythm. And this isn't just about physical work. Mental effort needs rhythm too. When thoughts feel heavy, decisions pile up, or everything seems urgent, that's when ease matters most. A short walk, a moment of watching the sky, letting your brain be quiet. It's not a waste of time. It's how insight finds you. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas don't come when you're trying the hardest, but when you're doing something simple, like showering or walking alone? That's not a coincidence. When the mind is not being pushed, it starts to open. It becomes more spacious, creative, calm. That's the gift of ease. That's why even effort needs breaks. You can also feel this rhythm in relationships. Have you ever tried to solve an argument by talking too much, too fast, pushing for answers? Sometimes, no matter how much effort you put in, things don't move forward. But when you step back, give space, a solution can quietly appear. Just like breathing. In, then out. Effort, then ease. This same rhythm exists in nature. Trees don't grow non-stop, they rest in winter. Rivers don't rush constantly. Some days they slow to a quiet crawl. Even the sun disappears each night. Not as failure, but as part of its cycle. Nature thrives in balance, not burnout. So, how do we start living this way? Begin by noticing your own rhythm. Are you always rushing from one thing to the next? Or are there pauses built into your day? You don't need to change everything at once. Just observe. Are you tired because of how hard you work, or because you never rest? Next, try adding small moments of ease into your routine. Not long vacations, but small pauses, a cup of tea, a few slow breaths, a quiet walk at sunset. These simple things matter more than we think. Not because they make us do less, but because they help us do better. This rhythm also teaches us something deeper. It teaches patience, trust. When you've done your part, worked with focus, given your best, then you let go. You rest. You trust that what needs to grow will grow. Just like planting a seed in the soil. You water it, you wait. You don't dig it up every hour to check if it's growing. You give it time, space, trust. That's where life begins to feel peaceful. Not because it's easy, but because it flows. You're no longer fighting every moment. You're dancing with it. There's an old idea that life is not a straight line, but a wave that rises and then falls. In, out, work, rest, push, release. When we honor this rhythm, life feels smoother. Not perfect, but kinder. Let's make this real. What's one area in your life where you've been pushing too hard? One place where there's been effort without ease? Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your thoughts. Whatever it is, take a breath. Just notice it. No need to fix it now. Just become aware. Then ask yourself, where can you let go? Even just a little. Where can you soften? Where can you rest? You might be surprised at what starts to grow in that space. And if you've experienced this rhythm, if you've ever seen how even a small pause can change your whole day, consider sharing it. Where are you from? What brings you here tonight? Let's connect in the comments. We all live in different places, face different problems, carry different weights, but this rhythm is something we all share, because life isn't just about working harder. It's about learning when to stop, when to breathe, when to let things unfold. So tonight, may you find your rhythm again. May you balance your effort with ease. And may the quiet spaces between your actions become the places where your strength begins. Embrace friendly failure. What if failure wasn't something to be feared, but something to befriend? That might sound strange at first. After all, for most of us, failure feels like something we must avoid at all costs. It can leave us feeling small, defeated, or even ashamed. But imagine for a moment, what if failure was not a final judgment, but just a part of the path? Like a helpful coach whispering, try again, but this time a little differently. Wouldn't that change everything? Have you ever worked really hard for something, maybe an exam, a job interview, or even a personal goal, like learning a new skill or saving money, only to see it not go the way you hoped? That quiet moment afterward, when things don't go as planned, can feel heavy. But within that silence is a message, not from someone trying to bring you down, but from an invisible guide saying, "There's something here to learn." Where are you watching this from? Maybe you're in a small room somewhere far from city lights, or maybe you're on a bus heading home after a long day. Wherever you are, take a moment to think of a time when something didn't go your way. What did it teach you? Feel free to share your story. You're not alone in it. Let's try a small example. Picture a child trying to ride a bicycle for the first time. They push off, wobble a bit, and fall. Do they take that fall as proof they can never ride? Of course not. They fall again and again. But with each fall, they learn balance, timing, and courage. Over time, those failures become their foundation. Now imagine if they had stopped after the first fall. There would be no story, no joy of gliding down the street, wind in their face, heart full of pride. It's in the falling that they learn to rise. The same thing happens to us, just on a bigger, often quieter scale. Maybe you tried to speak up in class or at work, but your voice shook and you felt embarrassed. Maybe you poured your heart into something, a project, a connection, a plan, and it didn't work. In those moments, it's easy to turn inward to hear a voice saying, "You're not enough." But that voice isn't true. It's only fear. The paradox is this: friendly failure isn't weakness. It's the beginning of wisdom. Because each time you fall and look closely at why, you learn, you improve, you adjust. It's not the fall that defines you, but how you respond to it. A critic says, "You're done." A coach says, "Let's review what happened." Even when we think of great minds or strong leaders, we often forget how many failures they faced. People who built great things, made discoveries, or changed lives didn't do it perfectly. They made errors, many of them. But they chose to see those moments not as the end, but as part of the process. Think about a storm. It can feel loud, uncomfortable, maybe even scary. But after it passes, the air is clearer. Trees bend and sway, but often grow stronger after the wind has tested them. Failure works the same way. It shakes us. But in that shaking, we become stronger, wiser, and more ready for what's ahead. There's also something powerful about softening our view of failure. When we see it as a friend and not a threat, we take more risks. We speak more honestly. We try new things. We allow ourselves to explore, to stumble, to laugh at the missteps. And in that space, creativity grows, confidence grows. Not the kind that comes from always winning, but the quiet, grounded kind that comes from surviving the fall and standing back up. Have you ever noticed how some of your most meaningful lessons came not from your victories, but from your mistakes? It's not always easy to see that in the moment. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. Like trying to fix something around the house. You try one way, it breaks. You try another. Still doesn't work. And then finally, on the third or fourth try, it clicks. That final success only happened because of the small failures before it. Each one gave you clues. Each one helped you get closer. Even in relationships, mistakes can be a bridge. Maybe you said the wrong thing. Maybe you didn't listen well enough. But admitting it, learning from it, that's how trust is built. Not through being perfect, but through being real. This idea of embracing friendly failure also touches something deep in how we see ourselves. It invites us to shift from judgment to kindness, from "I failed" to "I learned," from "I'm not good enough" to "I'm growing." That shift may sound small, but it changes everything. It gives space. It allows breath. It turns a harsh world into one with room to explore. Now, let's go one level deeper. Friendly failure doesn't just teach us about skills or tasks. It teaches us about being human, about letting go of the need to always be right, about understanding that others too are learning, that everyone stumbles. And when we see that in others, we become more patient, more open, more understanding. In the world of artificial intelligence and machines, things are designed to avoid errors. Everything must be clean, exact, controlled. But humans aren't machines. Our growth is messy. Our path isn't straight. And that's not a flaw, it's a gift. We learn through living, through trying, through falling and laughing and crying and starting again. So next time you find yourself at the edge of failure, try this. Take a breath. Step back. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Not in anger, not in fear, but in curiosity. Imagine the mistake as a teacher in disguise. What does it want you to know? And if you're listening to this now, maybe there's something you're holding on to, a moment where things didn't go as planned. Let that memory float up just for a second. Can you look at it differently now? Can you find even one small thing it gave you? A lesson, a redirection, a new understanding? Friendly failure reminds us that we don't have to be afraid. That behind the noise of defeat is the quiet voice of wisdom. That each stumble is an invitation to begin again, with more clarity and less fear. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are on a path, sometimes smooth, sometimes rocky, but always leading somewhere worth going. Keep going, keep learning, keep falling if you must. Just remember to fall forward with kindness, with patience, and with the gentle knowing that every step, even the wrong ones, are part of the dance. Value shared stories. Have you ever told someone a story from your life only to hear them say, "Me too"? It's a strange and quiet kind of magic. You thought you were alone in that moment, in that feeling, in that memory. But suddenly, someone else is there too. Their story isn't the same, but it rhymes with yours. And somehow, that soft echo of experience brings comfort. It reminds you that even when we feel most separate, we are often walking side by side. Have you ever had that moment? That quiet recognition between two people where a simple story reveals something deep? Maybe in a conversation with a friend, or even a stranger. If you've ever felt that, no matter where you're from, I'd love to know. Share where you're watching from or a story that once connected you with someone in the comments. Let's see how far our shared threads stretch. We often think of stories as entertainment, something we consume. But in truth, stories are more than that. They are bridges, a way to carry meaning from one mind to another. A story can travel across years, cultures, or belief systems and still make someone pause and nod. A single sentence can feel like it was written just for you. And when we hear our own thoughts reflected in someone else's words, we remember something important. We are not so different after all. Take something simple, like failing a test. You might think it's just a personal struggle, something embarrassing or small. But then someone else shares how they once studied hard and still didn't pass. Suddenly, your shame turns into something lighter. You laugh. They laugh. You feel seen. The story doesn't fix the grade, but it eases the weight of it. Or imagine standing in the rain, soaked after missing the bus. You're frustrated, cold, and late. Then someone walks by, soaked just like you, and says with a grin, "We're in the same boat, huh?" That moment becomes a shared story, a thread in the larger human fabric. Small maybe, but real. That's the paradox. We often feel most alone when something difficult happens, yet those are the very moments most people understand. Pain, fear, loss, joy, hope. They all show up in every life, just in different costumes. But when we tell each other about them, they start to look familiar. And that familiarity can bring peace. Even silence can hold a story. Think of two people sitting quietly, watching a sunset. They don't say anything, but the moment is full. Maybe they both carry thoughts they can't explain, but in the quiet they feel connected. That's a story too, told without words but felt just as strongly. In relationships, shared stories are how trust grows. It's not only the big, dramatic moments. It's the little details, how someone used to eat cereal for dinner in college or how they got nervous before a school play. These simple memories become threads that weave people closer together. They create a sense of, "I know you," And in return, you know me. And when we share our stories with no mask, when we speak honestly and simply, we invite others to do the same. It's like opening a door. You say, "Here's what happened to me," and someone replies, "Let me tell you what happened to me." That back and forth becomes a rhythm, a gentle rhythm that makes people feel safe. Even in things like mental health, shared stories are powerful. When someone says, "I felt anxious too," or "There were days I couldn't get out of bed," it chips away at the silence that makes people feel broken or different. But the more those stories are shared, the more they become part of the common landscape. Not something to hide, but something to understand. This also plays out in larger spaces, like workplaces, classrooms, or communities. A leader who tells a personal story about struggle, doubt, or learning creates an opening. People lean in. They feel less pressure to be perfect, and often performance improves when people feel understood. Stories soften the walls we build around ourselves. In the world of technology, even artificial intelligence, we see this too. AI systems like the one speaking to you now learn through patterns, language, and shared data. And what is language, if not the stories of thousands, even millions of people? When machines learn to speak, they're learning from human stories. Every paragraph, every post, every message left behind. It's a reminder that our stories don't just connect us to each other, they also shape the tools we build. But what happens when we stop telling stories? When we keep everything to ourselves because we're afraid of being judged or misunderstood? Slowly, isolation grows. We begin to believe the lie that we are the only ones feeling lost or tired or unsure, and that belief can be heavy, heavier than it needs to be. But one story, spoken with honesty, can lift some of that weight. There's a reason stories have survived longer than almost anything else. Before books, before videos, before anything written down, people told stories around fires, to explain the stars, to share warnings, to pass on wisdom, but also to feel together, to hear, "Yes, I've been through that too," and maybe, "You'll be okay." Sometimes even fiction holds truth. You read about a character struggling with something made up, and yet it feels more real than anything else. That's because the heart of the story isn't fake. It's built from the real emotions we all carry. Loneliness, hope, regret, wonder. Fiction, when done well, is just truth in a different shape. And not all stories are deep or heavy. Some are silly, some are simple. A memory of climbing a tree, a joke told badly, a time someone slipped on the ice. These are stories too. They make people laugh, relax, and breathe. And that too is a connection. So maybe the question is not, do I have a story worth sharing? But rather, what small truth have I lived that someone else might need to hear? It could be something you've almost forgotten, but to someone else, it might be the sentence that helps them feel a little less alone tonight. And if you don't feel ready to tell your story, that's okay. Listening is powerful too. When we listen, really listen, we offer space. We give a kind of quiet permission for others to be themselves. We say without words, "I'm here, I hear you, go on." And that might be more healing than we know. So next time someone tells you a story, even a short one, listen carefully. Notice what feelings rise up in you. Notice where it overlaps with your own path, and if you feel safe, maybe share a story back. Not to compete, not to impress, just to connect. To say, "I've been somewhere like that too." Shared stories don't always fix things, but they help us carry the weight. And sometimes, just knowing someone else has been where you are is enough. Enough to keep going. Enough to sleep a little easier. Enough to feel like Even in the quiet dark, you're not really alone. So, what story do you carry tonight? Invite gentle curiosity. Have you ever paused in the middle of a normal day and wondered, why do I feel this way? Not in a harsh or judging tone, but softly, like a whisper, like a gentle question carried on a breeze. It's strange how, rarely, we ask ourselves questions without rushing to answer them. We're often quick to label or fix, to explain or solve. But there is something powerful about simply asking, without needing to know right away. Just holding the question, letting it float, letting it breathe. Have you ever done that? Take a walk or sit by a window and ask yourself something open-ended, with no pressure to decide. If you have, I'd love to know. Share where you're listening from, and if you'd like, share a question that has stayed with you. Something simple, something honest, something curious. Gentle curiosity is different from the kind of curiosity we usually think about. It doesn't demand answers. It doesn't push or pull. It doesn't want to win or prove or be clever. Gentle curiosity feels like a soft light, like looking at yourself or the world with kindness. It's not about fixing something broken. It's about noticing what is there, just seeing it, without fear, without shame. Take a simple example. You wake up feeling a little off. Your body is slow, your mind foggy. Instead of thinking, "What's wrong with me?" you could try a softer question. "What might I need right now?" That small shift changes everything. The first question carries pressure. The second one carries care. And care makes space. Space for understanding. Space for rest. Space to feel human. Or maybe you're talking to someone and they say something that confuses you. Instead of assuming or reacting fast, you pause. You ask, what did they mean by that? Not in a suspicious way, but in a curious way. That simple pause can prevent so much misunderstanding. It can turn conflict into conversation. And often it can show you something new, something you hadn't thought about before. Gentle curiosity also helps when we're looking at the world. We live in a time where opinions fly fast. Everyone seems to have a strong view, a sharp answer. But what if we asked more open questions? Why do people believe this? What makes someone act that way? Could there be something I'm not seeing? These questions don't weaken us. They make us wiser. They help us understand the deeper stories behind people, places, and ideas. Even small things can be transformed by curiosity. You see a leaf on the ground. Instead of stepping over it, you wonder, what tree did it come from? How long did it take to fall? What patterns do its veins make? Suddenly, something ordinary becomes a doorway, a quiet invitation to pay attention. And when we turn curiosity inward, it can change how we see ourselves. Instead of judging your habits, you might ask, why do I do this? Not to criticize, but to understand. Maybe you bite your nails when you're nervous. Instead of feeling bad, you ask, what am I worried about right now? That question might reveal something deeper, something worth noticing, something worth caring for. In exams, curiosity can ease pressure too. Instead of thinking, I must get everything right, try asking, what can I learn from this? The same applies to any challenge, a job interview, a new task, a mistake. Every one of these moments can carry curiosity. A gentle one, the kind that helps rather than hurts. And when it comes to bigger things, like belief, identity, or purpose, curiosity becomes even more important. These aren't things we figure out all at once. They unfold slowly, like clouds shifting in the sky. If we approach them with force, we often end up lost. But if we ask soft questions, what do I truly care about? Or what brings me peace? We begin to find our way, not with maps, but with trust. Even in the world of AI and machines, curiosity plays a role. AI learns not by knowing everything, but by asking, over and over again, what patterns exist in the data. It doesn't start with answers, it starts with questions. And in a way, that mirrors us. We learn best not by proving we're right, but by being willing to wonder, to listen, to explore. Gentle curiosity also helps with memory. Have you ever thought about how some memories rise up when you least expect them? A smell, a song, a sound. Instead of pushing them away, you might try asking, "What is this memory trying to show me?" Sometimes the answer is simple, sometimes it's not. But even the act of wondering brings us closer to ourselves. In friendships, curiosity builds connection. You ask someone how they are, not just as a greeting, but with real interest. How was your day? What's been on your mind? And when they answer, you listen, really listen. That kind of attention creates warmth. It tells the other person, you matter. Your story matters. And when someone feels seen in that way, they often open up. They begin to trust. Even silence can hold a question. Sitting quietly doesn't mean we stop being curious. In fact, silence is often when the best questions come. When we are not distracted, when we are not performing, just a present, just open, just curious. Sometimes we fear questions because we don't know where they'll lead. We think, what if I ask and the answer hurts? But gentle curiosity isn't afraid of not knowing. It accepts the mystery. It holds it like a soft stone in the palm. It says, it's okay. I don't need to understand everything right now. I just want to notice. I just want to learn. There's also a beauty in asking questions with no need for reply. Questions like, what makes a cloud drift? Or, where does a thought come from? These questions don't seek answers. They invite wonder, and wonder, in its own quiet way, brings calm. Think of curiosity as a garden. Each question you plant is a seed. Some grow quickly. Some take time. Some never bloom the way you expect. But all of them change the soil. They make your inner world richer, more alive. And even if you don't see it right away, the roots are there, growing quietly, deepening your understanding. So tonight, maybe ask yourself a soft question. Nothing big, nothing hard. Just something open, something kind, like, what made me smile today? Or what do I wish someone knew about me? Hold that question gently. Don't chase the answer. Let it come on its own, like a leaf floating, down from a tree. And maybe tomorrow ask another, then another. Not to become wise, not to fix your life, but just to stay awake, to stay connected, to keep walking through the world with eyes open and heart steady. Because in a world that moves, fast, gentle curiosity is a way to slow down, to breathe, to notice, to care, and maybe to fall asleep tonight with a little more peace. Savor present moments. Have you ever looked up from your phone just for a second and realized you were missing something beautiful? Maybe it was the way sunlight touched the floor, or the quiet ticking of a clock, or the sound of birds calling in the distance. It's strange how these tiny things can feel more real than everything we're rushing toward, and yet, most of the time, we pass right by them, as if they don't matter, as if this moment, the one happening right now, is not enough. But what if it is? What if this moment, this breath, this very second, was the place where life truly lives? Not in the future, not in the past, just here, just now. Where are you listening from? And when was the last time you paused, just for a moment, and really noticed where you were? Notice the feel of the air, the temperature of your skin, the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. If you'd like, share it in the comments. We're all learning to slow down together. It's easy to forget how important the present moment is. The world moves quickly. There are plans to make, problems to solve, goals to chase. Our minds jump ahead, thinking about what's next, or they rewind, replaying what already happened. But somewhere between the future and the past, we miss what is happening right now. And that's where life actually is. It's not later. It's not yesterday. It's here. Take something simple, like drinking a glass of water. You could do it without thinking. Most people do, but if you pause, even for a few seconds, you might feel something different. The coolness of the glass, the way the water feels as it enters, your mouth, the quiet sound of swallowing. Suddenly, it's not just water, it's an experience, a small gift, a reminder that even everyday things can become meaningful if we let them. Or think about walking. We often walk while thinking about something else, but if you bring your mind to the act of walking, to the rhythm of your steps, to the feel of the ground, it becomes calming, almost like meditation. You don't have to be anywhere special. A hallway works, a backyard, even a room. The key isn't where you are, it's how present you are. This is the paradox. The present moment is always with us, yet we keep searching for something more. But more isn't always better. Sometimes more is just more, and sometimes less is deeper. You might be studying for exams, focused on what's coming. You feel pressure. Time seems short. But even in that space, you can pause. You can feel the weight of the pen in your hand, the sound of the pages turning, the quiet in the room. These little moments, tucked between the stress, can bring you back to yourself. They remind you that you're still here, still breathing, still trying. Even during hard times, the present moment holds something steady. When things feel heavy, your mind may want to escape. It may want to imagine a different past, or a better future. But the only thing we can touch, truly touch, is now. And sometimes, just sitting with that truth brings comfort. Not because now is perfect, but because now is real. Have you ever watched rain fall on a window? It's slow. It's quiet. Each drop follows its own path. No rush, no story, just movement. Being with that moment, noticing it without needing to do anything, can bring a kind of peace. Not loud peace, gentle peace, the kind that hums beneath the noise. Even something as common as breathing can bring you back. You don't have to change it. Just notice it. Feel how your chest rises and falls, how the air feels as it enters your nose, how it softens as it leaves. That's all. Nothing more. Just being where you are. This kind of attention is not always easy. We're trained to chase, to do more, to be more. But what if the real growth comes from pausing, from noticing, from being here, fully here, for the life we're living right now? Even technology can distract us from now. Notifications, messages, endless scrolling. It all pulls us away. But even in a digital world, presence is possible. Before checking your phone, pause. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Not to fix it, just to know. Just to be honest. Think about conversations. Often, we listen to respond, not to understand. But if we're present, really present, we hear things we usually miss. The tone of someone's voice, the space between their words, the meaning beneath what they say. This kind of presence builds trust. It builds connection. It makes both people feel seen. Presence also helps with sleep. Many nights we lie in bed thinking about tomorrow, or replaying today. But what if, instead, we focused on the weight of the blanket, or the rhythm of our breath, or the quiet sounds of the night? These things bring us back to now. And now is the only place where rest begins. Even the way we speak to ourselves changes with presence. Instead of saying, I should be doing more, we might say, right now, I am doing this. That's small. Change removes pressure. It creates space. It allows us to be human. In nature, presence happens easily. Watch a tree sway in the wind. It doesn't rush. I don't regret it. It just moves with the breeze. And somehow, by watching it, we slow down too. We begin to feel that maybe we don't need to do so much. Maybe it's okay to just be. Even in moments of stillness, your mind might wander. That's okay. It's natural. The goal is not to stop thinking. It's just to notice. To gently bring your attention back to now, again and again, like returning to a soft place, a safe place. Sometimes we think life is made of big events, but often it's the small things we remember, the way light looked in the morning, the smell of toast, a kind word, a shared silence. These things live in the present, and when we are present, we gather them. We carry them with us. Even in sadness, presence can soften the edges. When you let yourself feel without running, you start to understand. Emotions pass through you like waves, not to drown you, just to move, just to teach, just to heal. Some people think presence is passive, but it's not. It's powerful. It takes strength to stay with what is, to feel it, to face it, to accept it. That's not a weakness. That's courage. So maybe the question is not, what should I do next? But what is here now? Not, what should I fix? But, what can I feel? Not, how can I escape? But, how can I return? You don't have to do this all the time, just once in a while, just when you remember, like now. As you listen, as you breathe, as you rest. Right now, wherever you are, take a moment, pause. Notice one thing around you. The air, a sound, a light. Let it be enough. Let it be real. Let it be now. Because the present moment is not something to chase. It's something to see. And when you meet it gently, it gives you something back, something simple, something deep, something true.